Hello, everybody. Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning to those of you who are crazy. My name is Quest One Faustus. Welcome in. Thankfully, unlike yesterday, the internet didn't explode, so we can actually have a session today. I am ever so thankful to my ISP for not subjecting me to a brownout. Fuck you, Telecom. Fuck you, Telecom. Fuck you, Telecom. Anyway, um, we started today a little bit late because here in Europe, daylight saving time has just come into effect, so scheduling conflicts should be hopefully far less likely in the future. Because up until now, for the last 2 weeks, America has been 1 hour ahead compared to the typical time scale for the rest of the world, because governments don't talk to each other. Um, so up until now, every time we've been starting a session or playing something, it's usually been 2 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time, as opposed to the usual 1 p.m. start for them. So it had led to some confusion. Thankfully, now that will stop. But for today, we started an hour late to help compensate for that, and we will be doing only a 3-hour session as opposed to the usual shooting for 4. Anyway, thank you all for coming. Thank you all. That includes my players coming here to help come play with me. They will be the second session, not counting the session 0, where we will be going about exploring the first steps into the really cold parts of the world. To recap, since it's always a good idea, last the group got together, they convened in Mordan, the capital of the Mordani Confederacy. There, they were given their full task by the man who hired them back in Haven. They were turned loose, though they were strongly encouraged to stick to the main stage, the main street, where they could procure any supplies they needed, where some people decided to just secure what they needed, and some people decided to get the Texas Range Rover of wagons and hitch the largest possible horses to them. Well, I say got the largest fucking wagon. That was improvisation on my part. However, I think it was fitting given the fact that the man decided to hire 2 mammoth-sized horses. Regardless, it is with this wagon now hitched up and loaded with supplies that they joined the wagon train heading north, headed towards Rhymhell, which is the country where originally the target of their debt collection was supposed to be hold up, after which they would they have been spotted heading west towards Portaline, where the wagon train then intends to head after passing through, making sure that nobody is remaining there or they didn't double back. Also, just clarify, unfortunately, June will not be here today because she's too busy being a zombie.
Yeah. It's actually at a convention.
Yes, she's cosplaying one of them Genshes.
Hutao, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so she will be occupied for today, but we will miss her dearly, and hopefully this won't be too much of a setback, but I think we'll be fine. So, the wagon train is heading north. It is finding itself sticking to the side of the half-frozen river, which is slowly starting to melt. So the further north you go, the more solidly it melts, and the more solid the ice layer over the top becomes, as is observable as the more kilometers you travel north, the chillier it gets, even though that it is currently supposed to be just about the beginning of spring. Here in Sharaj, anybody who would ask would find that the general delineation of lines between nations here is a little loose, as the population in these nations is fairly thinly spread, and not a lot of people go about strictly monitoring the borders. But just about sometime about a couple weeks into the trip, you would be told that you entering into Sharaj, that you'll be approaching one of the many outer villages, as there are a cluster of them running up along the river. But this is one of the few ones that is built up enough and has an actual proper stone bridge spanning the river, which you hope to use, be able to go over, and then continue towards your destination in Portalane. It is noticeably getting colder, and once you reach the village in question, one known as Sovanosk, as you get there, there's actually a blanket of snow falling. It's getting a little bit dark, and many of the wagons pulling up to the town stop. People hop out. Awnings are drawn out. Sleeping supplies are gotten ready, and the head of the train, that being Stanislav's right-hand man, Sergei, is heading into town to speak to the village elder or mayor or whatever it is they have leading the leadership, and general social strati in this area is spotty and unreliable at best. That being said, being at the end of the wagon train, you guys pull up last. There is some trouble of the road here being somewhat muddy, half frozen, half soft. The wheels running along it, melting some of the snow, softening some parts of the road, but not touching others, which are rock hard, and this leads to some difficulty navigating it, even with the immense strength of your wagons, brought animals.
I will say this real quick. Remember, I did also buy us a pavilion tent if we are like stopping to rest and stuff like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Eventually, you do manage to pull the wagon up. There are some what could supposedly be called guards here at Savanosk. They mostly seem to be gathering around the edge of the village, where you the actual village itself is ringed by what would they be called? Palisades, and a series and what look to be stands built up behind the palisades. A lot of them are looking sort of tired, definitely cold, leaning on their pikes and spears. Just you see some of them just passing something back and forth, chewing on it, and just kind of just watching you all outside the city limits or town limits. But eventually you do pull up. You find a spot that works well enough. It's not exactly easy to find flat ground for camping. A lot of the ground here is rocky, lumpy, and frozen. That said,
Home.
as you are now come to a stop, you all may now disembark and choose to do what you want to do. How would you like to begin your first evening in Savanosk?
And we're in the town, right? Or are we on like the outside?
You're outside. You're outside the town, because they're not going to allow you to take your whole friggin' wagon train and park it in the town square.
Damn. That's tough. And is the sun still up, or is it like evening right now?
Starting to go down. It is currently edging on dusk.
Quote unquote the sun.
Yeah, the quote unquote the sun. So what are we talking about in this town? I mean, it's just like your standard small village. Then I assume there's a bar, there's like a local blacksmith, that type of thing.
You would assume that given the what do you call it? This comparing how the landscape and the shape of the village compared to like Haven or Mordaunt or any of the towns you passed coming out of the Mordani Confederacy. I mean, conspiracy isn't far off, but considering what you have in your experience to compare, and what Sergey and others in the wagon train spoke of as far as the condition of the nations up here. This is probably one of the bigger places you can hope to go to, besides maybe the capital of Sharaj, if at all it could be considered a capital. It's mostly a lot of very disparate villages and tribes. EJ Freya, thank you for following.
Hey yo.
Hey, welcome in. Pull up a seat. Just
Nice.
watch if you like and enjoy. So the general shape of Sharjah's cityscapes, if you could call them that, are not overly impressive, and this one, Savanovsk, is perhaps a more developed, relatively. It's not just like a blacksmith, a tavern, a single meeting hall, but they do seem to have taken the philosophy of having both the elders / village chief's house being the meeting hall of the village, and it's big enough that there are more than just a few residential homes. It's developed enough here that it seems to actually be thriving here out in the taiga. But you wouldn't call it a city, you would call it a town at most.
Okay, that makes sense.
So there's there's the main road going from the gate up into the town square, which is ringed by several what seem to be the core important structures. There's the tavern, there's a couple blacksmiths, there's the town meeting hall / elder's house. There's the cooper, there's the carpentry and sawmill, and then out around that, where the main plaza has sort of a Y shape to it. The bottom of the Y being the main thoroughfare, and the two other ones leading to gates that lead out of the town. One heading northeast, one heading northwest. And then all around the square, radiating outwards, are several smaller roads and back streets on which there are cabins and houses and even a few like would look to be reinforced tents.
Okay.
It's the fact that this place is big enough to have something that even resembles a militia.
Ah, so it's one of these. Well, I suppose that I know what I'm gonna do, but what does everyone else want to do?
Did we did Hollow any alchemy shops on the way?
On the way, no.
Or in the town?
In this
So-
town?
Yeah.
You could look to see if there's an alchemist or an apothecary or something along those lines.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna try to do, but I'll let other people go first.
Hey yo,
Well-
bits. Thank you.
Freya, thank you very much
Appreciate
for the 100 bits. That's very kind of you.
Appreciate it.
Money.
How long we staying here?
Who do you ask this?
I think. Well, I asked you if we don't as a.
Well, out of character,
I'm
if you're
asking you, yeah.
out of character, you're fast on that. The general idea is to try and keep on the move and resupply where necessary, and also spend as few nights out in the bitter cold where there's no shelter as possible to maximize the chances of everybody getting there in one piece. So the idea here is to stay the night here and then move on.
Okay, that
Okay.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess so with that, I mean, yeah, it's kind of what I was assuming. I guess try to find an inn of some kind, or see if there's any rooms available at the local wherever. That'd be my plan, because see, being out in the wilderness, definitely not the best.
Yeah, honestly, I would probably do that, but I hesitate to think about doing that only because one, I look scary, and two, I have a dragon, so I might
but-
just wait outside.
You can, my compatriot. I've already stood up for you. You can.
I
tell
know
me-
I know you've stood up for me. And look what happened when Karia went on his own. A child cried when he was being nice. Like
He has a point.
I'm
Well,
just
see,
a scary man.
Poor
yeah, Flick
Carl,
will,
poor
Flick
Carl.
will stand up. He kind of like tightens his winter clothing close to himself and adjusts his cowl and he speaks to Karya and says, "You know, I could try standing up. I could try standing up for you. I mean, I don't know if I'd fare too much better, but I could give it a shot. Seems like you might need an extra pair of hands in that regard."
Karya's just kind of gonna see all of this and just kind of. I don't think you understand that that's not. I'm not. I'm not worried about that. Fine.
Oh, yeah.
People start, if people start trying to stab us, that's on you. Fine. And he'll call Vair to his side.
Why do you need to stand up for him? He's already standing.
Oh, my sweet summer child. You
Flick
got so much to
raises a
learn.
finger. Is about to say something,
Uh.
but just sighs.
Just that brings a finger up. No, it's not.
Yes.
It's not worth it. It's not worth it.
Someday, but not today.
Someday, my friend.
Well, I guess so. I would like to, air quotes, lead the charge in trying to find some place to stay. Air quotes. So Trico will turn to everyone and say, "I'm going to be looking for a room to stay in. If any of you wish to come and join me, you're more than welcome to join. Just room, judging by how many of us there are here, motioning towards the entire caravan, rooms might not be plentiful, and if we do manage to find one, we might have to share. But better than sleeping out in the cold, yeah."
Yeah, anything. Yeah, I will say this: anything beats staying in the cold.
Okay.
Well,
So Jacko wants to go in and get herself a room. Who out and
We'll
out
go
wants? So Flick wants to join her. Anybody else?
I may as well go with because I have a feeling that actually, frankly, I'm almost more worried about Hollow Hollow because Karya at this point sees quite a lot of his younger self in him, in the fact that he's not very worldly. So instead of going with them, Karya is actually gonna stay behind, in a sense. And now knowing what Hollow Hollow is not only capable of doing when he's left unattended, with his finances, he'll turn and go.
Me throwing some gold at some peasants. There you
Yeah,
go.
exactly. Hollow. I fear that I don't trust. You know, I'm going to be going with you. I find that that's probably the better option.
I mean, if you insist.
I absolutely do. I'm going with him. I don't want him doing stupid again.
Proceeds to throw all my remaining gold down the well. Car's like, no, bro, please.
Hey, yo, bro, chill. It ain't that deep.
Hey, bro, chill. It ain't that serious. But yeah, I'll start looking for an apothecary then.
All right. It sounds like we've got one group that is going off in search of accommodations, and the other going in search of alchemical ingredients.
Correct.
Yes.
That actually makes me question, Vark,
I was about to ask, yeah.
peeling yourself out of the darkness in the corner of the what do you call it? Of the wagon. What are your intentions while you're here in Savanosk?
That's a good question. Since we intend to stay only for the night, I believe it is best if I don't set up anything long-lasting like a workstation. I had time to work during the travel, and I will do so again once we are en route. So, if there is indeed an apothecary and anything where I can inquire about alchemical reagents, I will do that. But I will also keep an eye out on any kind of shop or service that has to do with spellcasting,
Okay.
however small or dingy that may be.
All right.
Do you want to come along with us then?
That
And
seems
does-
preferable, yes.
Okay.
Well, never mind. I'll let's not break the illusion of where Vark was this entire time.
Mhm.
Being a fetchling, Vark easily blends into the darkness. In fact, uncannily so. The moment he's even within, as the rules refer to as dim light, he is, I wouldn't call it invisible, but hard to make out.
If this man was walking around in an unlit night, you would not see him. Yes.
I have a racial trait. It's called shadow blending, and in dim light, the people against me have a 55% mischance.
Yeah. So, something that would probably have cropped up some more over the long nights of being both on the ship and on the road, it would have been noticeable that the further the sun went down and once night fell, you found it not that he just disappeared, but more like there was a strange property to his presence and his body that just made it so that he kind of the line between him and the dark around him just blurs.
Blur, yeah.
He almost seems to soak in the darkness and kind of, to say becomes one with it would be far too edgy. More like it looks like almost a form of natural camouflage. Hell, it even propagates to the clothing he wears. So it is quite clearly something supernatural. Anyway, so we have a group of 3 that want to go shopping, and another group of 4. So another group of 3, sorry, since one is currently missing. Another group of 3 that wants to go find a room themselves. Beautiful. Okay. I think the first we should address is the group that wants to go find a room. That being Jacob, Karia, and Mallory. Sorry. I'm thinking. No, I'm
You just
sorry.
swapped.
I've got a total brain fart there. Jaco,
I was
Mallory,
about to say, where did Mallory come from?
Jaco, Mallory, and
Mallory.
Flick.
Snapped in.
Yes.
Jaco,
All
Mallory,
of a
and
sudden,
Flick.
I'm in and out of
Subs-
existence.
Substitution jutsu.
Yes.
Mallory, what the?
Surprise, 8th player, ninja. The reason you never saw them is that they're ninja. Anyway, bad joke aside. Jaco, Mallory, and Flick, you want to go off and find yourselves a nice place to stay for the night.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Getting out of the wagon after shortly discussing this, swaddled in your winter clothes as you are, with a very brisk wind blowing here in the evening air, only amplifying the cold that threatens to bite at your very bones. You pass into the town. There is a wary eye on all 3 of you, as is the rest of the caravan, from the militia standing guard atop and next to the walls. A few of them seem to narrow their eyes at you a little bit as you pass through the threshold of the gate. However, whatever Sergei spoke to them about obviously must give them pause from trying to stop you, shake you down, question you, whatever have you.
I'd like to imagine that Holo Holo is in like an outfit that's reminiscent of like when a mom bundles up their kid for the cold. So like his arms are sticking out.
Yes, looking like the Stay Puft Marshmallow.
Yeah, yeah. and he's, like,
Waddling around like a penguin.
yeah, waddling around like a penguin.
Violet. You've turned into a violet. Yes. So,
Okay.
They have to just
Violet,
roll
turn
hollow through.
Violet.
Just turn. They just have to roll hollow through the streets. Yes. Anyway, so you guys make your way up the main street. On both sides of the main street, there are just homes, but also shops. Many of the signs themselves have no writing on them. They're instead carved or embossed with symbols. A common tactic, as at least any of you even slightly savvy in business would know, because even with the presence of magic in the world, not everybody is literate. But a few times you do see writing and carvings of words. It's usually in a language that you guys either understand or don't, depending. Because the what do you go? The question. I'm not going to do the whole like who speaks what languages and then everybody pipe up with the languages they speak. You would have
Dork vision. No, I'm kidding.
I have dork vision.
Vision.
You know that the area up here tends to speak both a what do you call it? A mix of a dialect of Common, a northern dialect of Common, but also a mix of Giant and Dwarven. Giant in particular, Giant in general tends to be a fairly common language high in the north. There is no ontologically agreed reason as to why, but generally speaking, the consensus is that because there's a lot of giants in the north, and in particular, the Fearball are one of the more friendly, diplomatic breeds of giantkin that like to associate with other tribes and peoples. And as such, a lot of the people that they associated with were folks in the north. As such,
I don't know giant. I know a lot of languages.
in that case, you wouldn't be able to read about half of what's written here.
I know giant.
Of course you do.
Let's see. I actually want to. Yeah, I know Dwarven, Giant, Abyssal, Necrol, and Draconic.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Wow.
I'm not sure how exactly we're gonna reason out how you learned Abyssal and Necrol, but
I was underground. Lots of crazy shit goes out underground.
I almost knew Dwarvish. Almost.
but yes,
You were in hell both.
The Dwarvish and the Giant is very easily rationaled out because here in the northern area of Wote, Shiloh, and Sylvanas, here we go. They are. It's very heavily populated by dwarves and giants of different types, including Fearball.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, that's very, very possibly where you learned it.
I've been around.
You've
That's
been around
pretty much
a little
it.
bit, yes. And also,
I get around.
I would say that there were plenty of people. What do you call it? Plenty of folks in the hold with your father under the mountain that spoke a variety of languages.
Slaves of all types and sizes. Now,
yes.
speaking of that, though, yeah, I if it's in giant of some kind.
We haven't gotten to you going into town yet, though.
Oh, I'm sorry. I heard Peppy talking about it. I was very confused. It's like, how did we teleport? Anyway,
We're still on Chico, Mallory, and Flick.
Yeah, but yeah, we're all three of us.
Okay, well then I will shut up so they can get to that.
Yeah.
So, Chico, Mallory, Flick, you guys make your way down the main thoroughfare. Naturally, there are more than a few suspicious eyes on you from the people here of the town. It's very clear that they don't often get people passing through. It's very often they don't get people who are different passing through. The overall population here is primarily halfling, actually. Halfling and human, with the odd dwarf and a few other folks mixed in there. You see a couple of Fearball, standing heads and shoulders above the small folk. And then there's humans that help bridge the gap, the height difference. The one thing that they all share is what looks to be a general distrust of all of you. No.
About par for the course.
So, you are in the town. How would you how would you like to go about getting yourselves a room? Do you want to find the first inn, walk in, ask what the prices are, or do you want to try and find a nicer place?
We don't. Oh wait, sorry, I forgot. I'm not with them. Never mind. Ignore me.
We could look for an inn.
Yeah, I think I'd like to try to ask some of the locals. Much to their
Displeasure.
distrust. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, let's just make that a diplomacy.
Alright.
Let's see if you can get some of the locals here to open up to you.
12.
Yeah, didn't open chat.
Guys.
But do they open up their hearts?
Evidently
Apparently
not.
with a roll like that.
Would
Evidently
Yes,
not
we
with a 12.
Yeah.
So, Shaco, you spotting out a few people you could talk to, mostly folks sitting on their porches or standing up on a balcony. You try and approach one of them. Coming forward, you do your usual. Hello, I'm a traveling priestess. And before you can even get your whole elevator pitch out, the one elderly gentleman who you're approaching on the porch stands up, spits somewhere off to the side, walks into his home, and shuts the door in your face.
Oh my. Well, could gone better.
Demeanors will do that to you.
I'm just thankful he didn't spat on me. That's a plus at least.
Are there any locals that are doing something in particular, like playing a game or making something, something that you can like segue into to find a common ground with them?
Okay, so you're looking for something like a craftsman at work or children at play or, I don't know, maybe some people are playing a game of cards or something.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say, give me a perception.
Okay. Perception. It's a P. A natural 30.
Oh my god!
Damn.
Really darn it.
I'm really happy you can see. Now let's hope you can fucking talk to them.
We'll see. So, Mallory, seeing the results of Jaco attempting to communicate and find amenable ground between herself and one of the locals, you notice that she went for entirely the wrong type of person. She went for one of the old men sitting on the porch, just people watching and being nosy and going about his own business. These are not the type of people to open up to others. These are not the type of people to do anything besides maybe gossip to their closest friends, usually about their closest enemies. So you try and change your angle and look for somebody who's going about their business, possibly is engaged with something that doesn't allow them to immediately move away, and that would allow you to engage their interest, build common ground, and then use that as a springboard to getting information out of them. Am I correct in this assumption?
Yes, you hit the nail on the head.
Beautiful. So looking around, it's very clear. Given the typical weather of this area, a lot of people's workstations tend to be inside. Even the blacksmiths only really do their work indoors because of how biting cold it is and because of the temperature shock of if you go from a hot forge to the biting cold outside. So, not a lot of people doing a lot of work outside. However, what you do see is sitting on the porch of one of the local inns. It's a spacious porch, kind of like the kind of deck you might see outside of a Western saloon, with a lot of walking space. You could, if you were to walk maybe like side by side with the other two, you could walk shoulder to shoulder along the length of this porch. And they're sitting at the table, are what look to be 5 individuals. Look to be somewhere between early 20s to late 40s, if you had to guesstimate. All sitting around throwing dice.
Would I know what kind of game they would be playing? Is it like some sort of gambling game?
Considering how high you rolled, all you have to do is edge closer a little bit, because it is elevated. The banister gets in the way a little bit. But if you were to walk a little bit closer, stand on your tiptoes, and watch the game for about 10 seconds, let me think. Would you recognize this? You weren't really much one for messing around with gambling, were you?
No, not really.
Give me a knowledge local, if you have it.
Knowledge local. Oh, I don't have any ranks in that. Nor is it a class skill.
Do you have any other knowledge skills? Ones that could be applied here?
Is dungeoneering is a sort of gambling with your life, isn't it?
That's a
No.
bit of a stretch.
That's very hard.
Roll me a intelligence check, and we'll see how it goes.
Intelligence. Okay. Intelligence. A 9.
Damn.
It's a dice gambling game, but there's really the most you can tell is that it involves a cup and 3 dice. People seem to be
Yahtzee.
people go as in be going in a people seem to be going in a clockwise manner with it, and they're calling out like strange names in like of different types of words you don't recognize or understand. So yes, you don't recognize what it is. However, I will say, given that you were looking for things to engage with, this is still a potential angle you could play. Yes, you most certainly try your luck here if you wished.
Okay. Then, Mallory will approach them. Just walk up to them normally. Very, verily normally.
Casually approach, child.
Casually approach them.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And
As you approach, a couple of the older gentlemen facing your way tip their heads up, see you approaching, and one looks bemused, perhaps even edging on curious. Another one gives you a flat stare. And you were about to say something. Please continue.
he will just firstly ask, what game is this? As it looks interesting and new.
When you speak up, the folks facing away from you or to the side of you, sort of one of like the younger guys, the couple younger guys who are somewhere maybe they're early to mid 20s. Glance up, you see that there's a mix of a couple of elves. One of the older men sitting across is a dwarf of some very stout stature. The one next to him is what looks to be a fairly slim Fearbowl. And the last guy, who seems to be sort of the de facto dealer at the table, if there's such a thing, is a halfling who turns around to spot you, sort of half props himself up in his chair, swings himself around, and then now standing in the chair with his elbows on the backrest, is glancing up at you and says, well, could explain, but perhaps I should introduce yourself first.
Very well. My name is Mallory. I come not from here.
That's very obvious. Look at this one with the manners on him, lads. He says he's he's seemingly chewing on something as he's eyeing you up and down. He's getting your measurement as the other guys sort of give a chorus of hmm. Well, Mallory, you seem to be one of them pumping circumstance types. You sure you're supposed to be approaching us? Seems like a bit of a low game for someone of... He looks you up and down again. Your kind.
Aren't me and Flick near Mallory as well?
If you
Or
would
are
like... You would be hearing him talking to these folks, yes? Flick and Chanko, if you would like to interact, you may.
Seeing as how he failed, I feel dismayed, so I'm gonna be hush hush for a little bit.
Flick will observe for a bit. He'll observe and listen cautiously, just because he knows that they're strangers
wrong.
here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The others spot you as well, and the halfling sees you all approaching. Checo in her demure fashion, and Flick approaching with his cautious but ever-present swagger. Says, "Oh, you've got friends with you. Oh, that's... Oh, I get it. You're all coming here with the caravan. Ah, I get you. Oh, tourists.
Yes, we do hate to bother your Solace, but we have work.
Ah, so it's not a tourist thing. It's actually you're out here with something in mind. That's a change of pace, at least. And you are...
He does a little curtsy.
I think you cut out there.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he would introduce himself as Flick with a curtsy.
Curtsy. Oh, he's fancy. And then looks to the berobed Chaika.
She meekly looks up and bows and says, "Hi, my name's Ayako. We're as my friend here said, we're traveling with work, so hello."
Oh, she's a pleasant one then. As he gestures to each of them, to the two elves, the youngers, the young-looking ones. He says, "That's Huster and Bluster." Points to the dwarf and says, "That's Grimace." Points to the beer bowl. He says, "That's Reedy." And he points to himself and says, "I'm Tim Tam." Nice to meet you.
Nice
Good to meet you all as well.
Charmed.
Likewise. So, you were wondering about the game. And, well, seeing as you all seem to be adrift, as it were, until such a time as you're... He actually chuckles to himself a little bit and says, I think I'll be nice and not say that. So, until you're ready to get moving again and out of the town's collective hair, why don't we keep you guys busy? Why don't you sit down and have a round of Rhyme Hill Rumble with us?
Well, she looks at her compatriots. Do you all think?
I think. What?
Shall we stay for a game, or do we look for an inn?
Oh, you're looking for an inn?
Yes, what inns are here in town, if any?
Well, not exactly a place that gets a lot of travel, so not a lot. We have the messengers passing between the towns, between Rhyme Hill and Portaline, and then we get a few going south towards Mordaunt, or a little bit more to the west. Really, what we've got trade. The inns are more there for traders and messengers. I think you'll find that we don't really have the space for how many people you've brought through. So you're probably not going to get a room tonight. If you ask nicely at some of the homes, some of the families might put you up. If you pay them good enough, and if you offer to earn your keep for the night, in some cases, you may even find somebody who's willing to open up their home to you out of a sense of northern hospitality. Yeah, or on the off chance you might be able to get a room out of one of the inns here if you're able to upbid. You're willing to take somebody else's room away from them. That would be a little low of you, I think. Not something such a nice group of people such as yourself would do to your fellow travelers, would you?
No.
Would never do such a
I
thing.
am above forcing someone out of their well-earned inn room.
He eyes Mallory and his very conspicuous silence.
Of course not. I would never do such a thing. That would be rather
Unconscionable.
rather
Oh my.
unconscionable.
Noted. So, if that's the case, he points to the tavern you're currently sitting on standing on the porch of. He says, I did speak to the matron here not about half an hour ago, and she said that the entire place is booked through. So if you're looking for a place here, you're out of luck. But you could find a place. Alternatively, I see you've got all them caravans out there. In a pinch, I'm sure those will do. It's shelter out here. As long as you're able to keep the wind off, you shouldn't freeze to death. Yeah. Now, how about that game?
Well, if you'd kindly explain the rules, I suppose I could play with you.
Absolutely. Go on and take a seat. Anybody else want to take in, or you just want to watch?
I will watch for now.
I shall watch. Learn the game first.
Fair enough. Less players, less chaos.
I will say this right before we get in the game. Flick will, while the game is going on, he will kind of occasionally look away and kind of scan the rest of the town to see what houses might be good to ask around. For,
give me a perception while we're doing this. Okay, Mallory. Tim Tam goes about explaining the rules of Rhymehell Rumble. The objective is loosely each person gets gets a turn with a clay cup and a set of 3 dice. What you're attempting to do is fill certain fill certain sets of dice. In effect, it's Yahtzee. It's just straight up
I've
Yahtzee.
never played Yahtzee.
You screamed Yahtzee.
I know
Because it's
I know
the
that's
one
what
it's the one dice game everybody knows.
Ugh.
So yes.
I've literally never played Yahtzee.
So the point of Yahtzee in this case, Rhymehell Rumble. Apparently, it's called that because when folks learned this from the Firbolg Triad, it was with such massive dice that it caused the tables to shake. And originated from Rhymehell, go figure. So the idea is before you start off, you've got sets of numbers that you're trying to fulfill. And what do you call it? You're going for three twos, three ones, 3 2s, 3 4s, 3 5s, 3 6s, and you're also trying to get the 1 2 3 4 5 6. You're also trying to potentially get the highest possible. Every time you roll, you have to throw or insert what you've just rolled into one of those. You can only fill each of them once. It's difficult to explain right off the cuff. It's easier to learn if you play it, but we're not going to sit here and have me bore you have me bore everybody here trying to teach you the finer points of Yahtzee. Instead, what we're going to do is you're going to roll a d20.
Okay.
Because this is a luck-based game.
Really
Unless
does.
you wish to attempt to cheat. And considering Mallory's current novice understanding of the rules that would come with a penalty.
Yeah, no, let's see what happens. I'm just gonna roll the d20.
Okay.
I got an 18.
Beautiful. Also, what is that picture? Ah, yes, casually approached child.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. So, Mallory, there is a small ante. Everybody throws in a single silver coin. We're expected to match that before the whole thing starts. And then, as Tim Tam goes about explaining the rules, every now and again, Reedy chimes in with a... Well, considering how big he is and how thin he is, it gives something of a paradox of what one might expect his voice to be. But it's actually fairly smooth, as he just... Every now and again, he'll chime in with single word responses to correct something Tim Tam has explained to you in a whirlwind of quick advice. The elves seem mostly wrapped up in their own side of the game, and Grimace, on his part, is every single time he's about to roll, he takes almost a full minute. And every time he's finished rolling, he contemplates where to put his dice in the roster for another 5, to the ever-escalating annoyance of Reedy, who is always next after him.
I see.
And as everybody goes about it and you do the several circuits around, you end up coming out on top for the first one. And you end up winning the pot of 5 silver.
Huh.
So you put 1 silver in, you've gotten a total of 6 back for a profit of 5.
Neat.
As that took about the overall game, thanks to Grimace taking his sweet good dang time, and Reedy eventually just rolling regardless before he ever decides on where to put his dice. As Tim Tam explains, Grimace usually decides on one outcome, spends 5 minutes thinking about it, and then goes with that outcome anyway. And that's just how it's been, apparently, for the last 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah, these guys are long-standing friends, it would seem.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah. So, eventually, as it comes out, through a mix of both your own luck and your astute analytical mind, you end up winning the pot. To which they say, "Oh, not bad for a beginner's luck." To which Grimace just huffs, raps once on the table with his knuckles, says, "Damn right, it's beginner's luck." He just sort of harumphs, but it doesn't seem to actually bear any, venom in it. So, yes, you won your first game. And as you're going about playing, Flick, you're observing the town, trying to find a good place to potentially ask around for a place to stay. A lot of the cabins have their lights on, but their doors and windows closed. Even the cabins that do in fact have windows and not just shuttered holes in the buildings. It's hard to find a place that would qualify as good, let alone a place that could fit 3 or 4 or 6 or 7 extra bodies. And you're also seeing people who obviously came through with the caravan getting turned away at doorsteps. So those are very swiftly eliminated as places, and that's a lot of them. You're very, very quickly realizing that a lot of them are walking back out towards the front entrance and pitching tents.
When you get the chance, can you take a gander at the notes I sent you, Remy?
Oh. Yes, you still have to pay that.
Okay.
In this case, it's a material cost, so if it's not something you readily have on hand, you need to go out and purchase it.
Well, it looks like I'm going shopping.
Yes. Mallory, would you like to continue playing here and spend your day like that, or would you like to? How would you like to do this?
Well, there is on one hand getting distracted, making friends with the locals, and possibly making friends with the group, and possibly like bunking with them for the night.
Hmm?
And another one is just helping Flick. So which would you rather? Jake.
Flick.
Flick.
Repeat that for a sec.
Want me to come along with you?
Yes.
Then I will come along.
Okay. So after like 1 or 2 games, had your fill. You learned the rules. How do you excuse yourself from the table?
Mallory would look the sky, which is setting, or the sun, which is setting. And he'd say, "Well, it's been fun, I suppose, but I really ought to look for a place to spend a night."
Well then, wish you the best of luck with that. At least you're more polite than most of the folks who come through today. Easy gestures over, and you've even made a good impression over on Grimace over there, and that's real rare. So, best of luck with that. I wish you good luck. Hopefully you enjoyed today. Definitely had fun myself. You're probably the most tolerable traveler I've seen in a long time. And maybe you can bring that game with you wherever you go next, Take that abroad. As he then sort of sits himself back in the chair and goes back to shaking dice in the cup. As he waves you off.
He'd wave back and head over to Flick.
Yeah, so as brusque as they were at the beginning, and as backhanded as some of those compliments were, it seems at the very least you've made them warm up to you a little bit.
Good.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, Ditto has redeemed self-care. Everybody sit up straight and take a drink. Stretch.
Thank you.
I refuse.
Yep.
I would, but I
Laying down.
Stretch.
Laying down.
no,
Ah.
no, not Julian, no.
Soon he will fall asleep. Okay, so, right. That means Mallory and Flick are going to be going off in search of further accommodation. And Chico, were you planning on Chico, are you planning on going off to do some shopping on your own?
No, that can be done either early in the morning or after we find do or don't find living arrangements.
Okay, so we're gonna go with them. We're gonna hop over to Karia, Hollow, and Vark. We're going off for a little bit of shopping.
Oh god, shopping.
Here we go again.
Proceeds to spend all my remaining gold on something stupid.
That's one way of going about it.
Yeah.
Question is, would you be able to do so here? So, you guys walk into the town. It's very much the same vision. It's a streets lined with closely packed and closely clustered huts and cabins, as well as the odd reinforced tent, shops and residences, and other such. You guys are specifically looking for apothecaries or alchemists. Or, any other place that is magically inclined. How would you like to go about that? One of
Apothecaries and especially herbalists, for example, usually mark their stores with either just a selection of herbs and reagents stored in bottles or potters outside the store, kind of like window shopping-esque. Looking for that kind of thing overall, and obviously the stereotypical hanging signs from the house front designating a store of some kind, if something like that.
Okay. Looking out for that. Hello, and Karya. What are you going to be doing
Yes.
while you guys are looking for
Honestly,
these?
I'm probably looking up for damn near the same things as Vark. Just looking for an alchemical apothecary shop, anything that I could use to get some ingredients, or any store I could go to get any ingredients, essentially.
Okay. Karya?
Honestly, I'm not even looking. I am just following, not because I probably don't know what to look for, because at this point, this is your traditional northern town, and they all kind of end up being the same way as Karya has found. He's more so making sure that Hollow doesn't do anything stupid, and is keeping an eye more on him, following along, and also keeping out for anyone that might be a little more crass.
Ah, I see. All right then.
Protect the nerds. Thank you.
Yes. He's the jock protecting the nerds.
He's the yeah. That's such a way he is.
Okay, I'm going to roll something.
Okay.
You want us to know anything, by the way?
Sure. If either of you have knowledge local, or if you have perception.
I have perception. I also think I have knowledge. Oh no, I don't. Okay, it's okay though. I have perception though.
Let's see.
Knowledge local in this case is what I'm using generally to substitute for the gather information ability. That used to exist, but no.
Yes.
Hmm.
And I will also spend inspiration for free since it's a knowledge check I've trained. So first comes the roll itself, and
Hold
then
on,
the
I think it was the
inspiration
roll.
after that for a 23.
Okey-dokey.
Let me roll my perception. An 18.
Okay. So, Vark, basing your knowledge off of your pre-existing research as well as drawing some informed conclusions and guesses, and Hollow purely checking down each street and looking here and there, you're able to, or you do, narrow down that towns like this tend to be lacking in terms of magical talent. It's just a fact. Magically able people, while not super rare, are still an uncommon talent. Both those who get it naturally are rare. Those who study it are rare because of the amount of dedication and discipline it takes.
Yeah.
They also ain't too keen on people like that out here.
Well, it depends. Depends on the nation's stance on it, their
Yeah,
mentality
yeah.
when it comes to magicals. It depends on how they view them, how superstitious they are of them.
He's a witch.
One that Vark knows from his previous readings, from the viewpoint of some of his master's journals, is that towns like this tend to, at the very least, have what is called a wise woman. That is not necessarily always a magically capable woman, but they tend to be a matriarchal figure who is capable and knowledgeable in both superstitious and practical cures and solutions to sometimes not even medical or magical problems. Wise women will often know how to break a simple curse, how to mend a wound, disinfect, create salves, brew simple teas and stews that help with indigestion and with irritable bowels. They tend to be women of expansive, if mundane, pragmatism and knowledge. Not every town has something like that. Some towns have wizards, some do not. Some have magically capable people who act as the de facto, expert. But usually, especially further flung villages, if they have somebody like that, it's usually a wise woman, as that is a role many tribes here in the area had before they started getting pulled together and unified.
So the equivalency of my head shaman, essentially, from where I'm from.
Not far off, yes. Not always with the whole spirit communication thing, but not far off. Now, there's a different subject of actually finding this person, to which Hollow Hollow's check comes in. And as central of a role as this person might have in this community, they're not actually positioned on the main square. Instead, you find them down a couple back streets in a hut that is about as big as anybody else's. There's not a lot of signage out front. There's no jars of reagents in the window. There's no flask or herbal sprig on a sign. It's just a home. There's a rack with some fish drying out front. There's looks to be a wash basin next to the front door. But one thing that stands out from the rest of the homes is that every couple of minutes or so, somebody will come knocking, come in, and then a couple minutes come out.
Oh. Interesting. Okay. Then in that case, Hollow will penguin waddle, I guess you could say, up to the door, and he'll try to knock it.
I'm gonna grab him by the nape, like the collar of his shirt.
The
just
collars, you mean?
Yeah, his collars. I'm gonna kind of pull him back a little bit, and then take a step, and then I'm going to knock. Just
Okay.
I think I had the knocking part down.
I know, buddy. I know.
Okay.
Yes. Vark, we can't leave you out of this equation.
Yes, absolutely. So I am hanging back a little bit,
I'm
watching
gonna
this
subtract
from
the
like a
bark.
couple of steps away.
Okay.
I subtract the bark from the equation.
And Karya divides you.
By 0.
No.
That's how a sphere of annihilation is made. Congrats, everybody. You can go home. So, you knock on the door, Karya. Little thump, thump, thump. Big as you are. It takes about 10, 15 seconds. Just long enough for you to consider knocking twice. And then the door pulls open. And you're not sure quite what you were expecting. What would you be expecting from the image of a wise woman?
I mean, you know, an older woman, probably blind. Probably keeps to herself in a quaint little shack at the corner of town. That older, elderly, that type.
The finger crones from Elden Ring.
The finger crones, yeah, no. Not like a hag raven, but definitely older.
Okay, so not too far off, but rather than any sort of like heavy robes or like perhaps like a cloak or a witch's hat or some such, instead there's an older lady with thin, wispy white hair, a corncob pipe clenched between her lips, what looks to be a young lamb nestled in the crook of one of her arms, and a shepherd's crook held firmly in the other that is currently pulling the door open. So I will then deposit this in the chat.
Bah.
Hey.
Ah, I see. A shepherd.
Yes. As she opens the door, obviously is looking at you about considering how hunched over she is, about like stomach height. Looks up, and then rather the first thing that hits you, besides her diminutive stature, is how her eyes go right through you. And I don't mean like she's got 1,000-mile stare. I mean, it's like she's looking past your whole facade, the whole tough guy act that you sometimes put on, past the years of trauma in Orthos's campaign, and for a second you feel like a little boy. As she's just, with just a glance, she seems to have rendered you down into just another kid that came knocking at her door. And then she looks past you, sort of readjusting her crook, taps a couple times on the floor as she readjusts herself, looking past you, down and up. She sees Holo with his 2 capybaras. She sees Vark a little bit behind him. Then she looks down and she sees Vair sort of slither up alongside your thigh. She looks down at him and goes, "You fool boy, what do you think you're doing walking around town with something like that? Get in here."
Though normally, in any other circumstance, Karia would immediately come to the defense of Vair being called something. He realizes this is not the best way to handle a situation in a town where people are already probably nervous, and will glance down to Vair with an apologetic look and then motion for him to step in, and then he himself will go in as well.
Actually, now that I think about it,
Mm-hmm.
is this lamb an actual lamb or is it a familiar?
Would you have a way of knowing?
I mean, is there a role?
Knowledge Arcana?
Knowledge Arcana, or just detect magic if you have it.
I think I do have detect magic, but I also have a really high knowledge Arcana.
Well,
so...
I can also assist you with it if you'd like. You probably have a way better one than I do. I only have a +4.
I'm just gonna go knowledge Arcana because I don't think Holo is in the magic casting capability currently because of his arms.
I understand.
Yes, it's fucking 50% arcane failure chance because of the restriction.
That is true. I actually, before I offer assistance, I'd rather ask if Vark would prefer to, because I'm almost positive.
Are you guys like standing in the entrance, going like, "Hey, what do you think that is? Do you think it's a familiar?"
I walked in, so
so you wouldn't be really in a place to really help out with that. You could make your own knowledge Arcana check, but you wouldn't be able to assist.
Yeah.
This is basically what I'm doing. I am, as always, basically just, as I mentioned earlier, observing in this case, hanging back. As the others go in, I obviously follow. I don't just kind of stop like standing outside, but as the old woman comes out, as she says her thing, I observe and I evaluate.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the lowest scores I could get for that knowledge Arcana.
Well, I am also there with you, buddy. Yeah, same score.
Both 15. So as the both of you sort of look at the lamb, you look at her, and you look at the lamb, you try to see if there's like any demarcations of the lamb being something different from usual. Holo in particular, since you know what it's like to have a familiar, you try to look for like any signs of greater intelligence or sort of an intuitive link between their movements. And really, the lamb just seems to be looking back and forth very stupidly, like a sheep does. And then as Karia and Vair walk in, she looks out. She waits for a second as you're all kind of just staring at the lamb and her, and feels like, if you're trying to make a meal, if you're that hungry and you're thinking of making a meal of the lamb, you're going to have to pay a bit more than you can afford. If you're trying to make a meal of me, you're damn mistaken. Now get inside.
I don't eat meat, but thank you.
I actually, seeing them struggle, can I just attempt to make a check to go, guys, you're being stupid? Just out of pure curiosity, because I'm waiting in here.
Like a sense motive, or?
No, like a knowledge Arcana.
Knowledge Arcana, yes, please. You may attempt your own.
Check.
22.
That's a fun thing, actually. There's a really fun ability in Warhammer that I love, and it's just common sense. It's also an ability people can take in Shadowrun, and it effectively just means like once or twice or how many times you take this ability per session, the GM can just kind of whisper in your ear and go, "Hey, this is a bad idea."
Okay. That's funny.
Yep. I
It's
remember
it's a lifesaver. It really is. It's always good to have at least one person in the in the party being the voice of sense. So,
Also,
Karia,
I'm not there.
Hmm?
Shit, I'm not there.
yeah. So Karia, sort of you look at them, and the two overly analytical nerds that were accompanying you. You see them looking at the lamb and looking at the older woman, who very clearly, if you were to just look at her from afar with a silhouette, or carrying a small animal with a long wooden, what could be mistaken for a staff, the assumption could be made that she could be some sort of witch and that the lamb is her familiar, or whatever is happening there. Whatever the case, the way that they're staring at her is construably rude, as well as sort of your own curiosity peaking. You look at the lamb, and it's just a normal lamb.
Karia's kind of gonna.
Like you know from your link with Vair, well, at least going off your own assumptions with your link with Vair, there's none of that going on between her and the sheep.
Yeah, Karia's gonna kind of lean out because I don't think they've come in just yet, and put a hand on both of them and just guide them in and go, "It's a normal lamb. I don't know why you're ogling the lamb or the old woman, but please come inside."
The older woman is just sort of like with a slight hobble in her step, is sort of shaking her head as she goes into a back partition of the cabin. In the front of the cabin, out by the front door, there is a crackling fire. Around the fire, there are several threadbare, if also well decorated, lounge seats, and what looks to even be a couch of a sort, with just absolutely covered in knitted blankets and doilies and other such paraphernalia that makes them slightly itchy, if still soft and comfortable. Also, Holo, you are now officially sweltering in your clothing.
God damn it! Yeah, mind you, I actually thinking about it, I don't even think Kari is probably even that bundled up, because he lived in mountains.
I'm gonna nudge Karia with one of my T-posing arms right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna assist
For-
Hollow
For a
in
fun
getting out of his layers.
for a fun time, roll me a dex check.
A dex save. That
No, not save.
what?
Dex check. A dex check,
That's
or
what-
I would even say sleight of hand if it all you have points in it. I doubt it.
I do not, but
In that case, just dex.
Actually, yeah, the same roll it's the same either way.
Just
Let's
dex.
go for it. 19.
Yeah, I'll say that's good enough. As the older woman is now coming back, she no longer has the lamb in her arm. Instead, she has what looks to be a teapot, which she comes up to the fireplace, puts it on the end of her crook, and then using the crook deposits it on a metal hook inside the fireplace, where the freshly wet iron of the pot begins to evaporate, and she then takes a seat on the lounge chair closest to the fire, where she then takes a knitted blanket, throws it over her lap, rests the crook on the chair next to her, and then takes a seat back as she watches Karia try to pull the several layers of winter clothing off of Hollow. Karia does manage to pull several of the layers off. Once you start getting into the last few, they are more and more soaked with sweat. And had the effort not been made to pull these off, he might quite possibly might have passed out due to heat stroke.
Yeah, I'll be laying them in front of the fire to dry off. The entire time, I'll be looking at the older woman and go, I apologize for my companions. They're a little, well,
Strange.
I can't speak for Vark, but I can speak for this one. A little less worldly.
Hello,
But
I
I
am
can
Vark.
But I can speak. for
Hello,
myself.
I am Vark.
Appreciate that. And she nods towards Vark and says, "Hello, Vark. It's nice to meet you." As again, to reiterate for Holo Holo and for Vark, she gives each of you a piercing look that, at the very least for Holo Holo, reminds him of the many times he's been sat down and lectured by the tribe shaman, and for Vark, reminds you of your time growing up in the villages back in your home plane. You feel not quite thrown back to a happier, childishly innocent time, but more like you're back in the presence of, and even if you didn't have one, back in the presence of the, what do you call it, the grandmother that was always otherworldly competent. She knew how to darn everything. She knitted blankets, very evidently, faster than what would seem even physically possible, churning out a whole quilt in the course of a night. Always knew the exact flavor of tea and biscuit to serve you in such a way that always tasted the best. And all of this, just with a look, you feel like you're sitting around the fire with your grandma again. She's got an aura to her. As she gets comfortable in the lounge seat, and Holo Holo stops dying of heat stroke, and I'm assuming each of you take a seat yourselves. Eventually, the kettle begins to boil, and she takes the crook, hooks the kettle off the hook, and puts it down on what looks to be a cozy. Another knitted in a flower pattern sitting on the coffee table. She then deposits the kettle there, stands up once more, takes several ceramic cups, puts in some what looks to be ground something, leaves, you think, that she then pours hot water into each cup, and then slides that towards each of you. She then makes her own cup, waits for a bit, before then also taking the lid off of a ceramic jar at the center of the center of the coffee table, and then pulls out what looks to be some sort of oat biscuit.
I see.
She dunks that in the tea, takes a bite, and then gets comfortable in her chair again.
We were here for a reason, though. If I'm being honest,
Her eyes immediately go back to you.
Alchemical ingredients.
Ah. Well then, she then
Holo Holo's just gonna hold out his coin purse, which is just filled with gold pieces.
she takes the crook and then cracks you across the back of the knuckles with it.
Thank you.
The force of which you actually end up like dropping the pouch on the table for a second, as she then puts the crook back where it is, sort of nestled against the armrest. Says, "Don't go waving money like that in people's faces, fool child. You're very easily taken for, well, the fool that you are, but far more than you can pay with."
Okay.
Your name is? She motions over to the witch.
Holo Holo.
Holo Holo. Karya, Vark, and Hollow. Hello, it's nice to meet you. My name is Granny Aking.
Granny Aiken, you said.
Yes.
Damn.
Pleasure to meet you.
Yes, exactly.
Her,
Do you sell?
Oh, sorry. Go
yeah,
ahead.
her face shifts ever so slightly, but you can't quite tell exactly in what way. As she continues to dunk the biscuit, takes a bite out of it once it's softened up a little bit, and motions for the jar and says, "Go on, take one." Go ahead. You can have. You may have a biscuit.
Yeah, Kari's gonna reach
They're,
over.
they're,
and
you
grab
have-
two.
they're not there to not be shared.
That's fair. Kari will
Hello,
reach.
hello, will take
Oh.
a biscuit. Oh,
Mhm.
sorry. Go ahead, Matt.
No, I was just saying I'll grab two, and all I was gonna then say is he'll look to her and go, well, Granny, we are on a bit of a journey across the tundra. We're going up north.
I gathered everybody coming through my home today spoke to no end of your little caravan.
Yes, I
Jim.
don't want to bore you, but
Well, hardly. No,
my-
please.
my friend here is a bit of an alchemist himself, and anything you could spare would greatly help us along the road. Of course, if payment is required,
No,
well,
no,
he's-
no. You're skipping a couple of steps there. Her eyes flicks down. You see that Vair has actually taken up the place directly in front of the fireplace and is actually rolling around a little bit in front of it, like a dog in a daisy field.
that sounds like Vayer. I'm gonna give him a biscuit
He's-
because I grabbed two, one for him.
He snaps it up just like the gold coins you flicked to him.
Very good.
As Granny Aking will then she will then look away from Vair and back to the three of you and say, "Well, I can't help you with that because I don't accept money for things." Nor
You trade them.
not quite. I'm not a shopkeeper. I'm not even really an alchemist. I'm just an old woman who helps people who come through. People come, they ask me for help. That's what I do. And the help you need is alchemical reagents. I don't really do very much alchemy. Most of what I do, despite how some of the townspeople tend to describe my work, is not all that fantastical. I make poultices, I make bindings, I teach people how to use alcohol to disinfect wounds. I herd sheep in a way that nobody else seems to ever really understand. Then again, it takes a lot to understand the mind of a sheep. Far too many people are willing to discount them, and so far few people try to learn to think like them. Honestly, if I had to say, I'm just trying to teach everybody a little bit of common sense. Fortunately, it's not so common. As she looks over towards Holo Holo.
Vark, in the meantime, has taken one cookie, looked it over like from all sides, broke it apart, looks at the inside of it.
You're supposed to eat it, boy.
Well, yes. I know what food is.
Are you curious about the recipe?
Yes.
And she'll shrug and she'll say, a little bit of sugar if you can manage it, some milk, some oats, and mix it in a bowl and cook it and bake it in an oven.
Careful nibble.
It's got a It's definitely got that oaty flavor to it, but it's also got a light sweetness to it that's a little bit strong off the tongue and then mellows out. I have it with some tea.
What is this called again?
What, the tea or the biscuit?
Oh, this is a biscuit.
Just an oat
In
biscuit.
character the question. He goes,
Oh, okay.
What is this called again?
It's just an oat biscuit.
Biscuit. I've heard of these things. They're good. Thank you.
Looks between the three of you. I have some interesting company today.
Does this look like something that if I were to bite into it, all this stuff would get stuck in my teeth or anything like that? Considering that I don't have normal teeth.
I was about to say it probably would just fall apart. That's what I get from those the crumbly types.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was gonna be like a mushy.
It is a crumbly biscuit. You do see though when she dipped it in the mug, and then bit into it, there was no crumbs. It just kind of pulled apart.
Okay.
Which is why she insisted, have it with some tea.
Then I'm just gonna take it as it is. It's like a bear trap. I'm just gonna bite into it.
Okay. Crumbs go across your lap. Little flakes of oat get stuck in like your molars and between a couple of your teeth. But it's sweet. Got a hint of milk into it. And a very mellow, oaty flavor.
Yay.
Very crunchy. She looks each of you over with a bit of amusement and then says, unfortunately, I don't really have a big stockpile of reagents. I keep a few sometimes if I actually need to make something special, but most problems can be solved with just normal solutions. Some people just go overboard. I've seen far too many wandering miracle makers come through and offer their the great powers of their deity, only to charge or attempt to charge before I set them straight, one of the local villagers 50 gold for a single paper cut. Sometimes a good night's rest is enough to get people over a flu. It doesn't take magic or an alchemical potion or such. So usually, and it's reliance on that tends to breed dependence. So I teach people here to come up with their own solutions and make do how they can. But if you're really looking to make something that you're going to need, can I ask what?
Well, simple potions.
Potions of what sort? There's a variety. Are you expecting to get into a fight at some point?
Well, we do have a job.
A job?
We need to help out some people. Find some other people that did something bad to them.
Ah, I see. That's what the whole point of this was. I had a feeling.
Not proud of it.
Well, I'm not sure they should be proud either, running off with their tail between their legs, not even bothering to explain anything. Did you know the man who you're looking for came to me looking for help?
So you have met him.
I have. I thought that he was a good, if misguided kid. They seemed to have a goal, though obviously he was putting the cart before the goat, as I might say. He had his end objective so close to him, so within physical reach, that he completely ignored the obstacles in the way. So he came to me looking for help, and now he's got himself in something of a jam. His first mistake was taking money from the vampires. You see, people out here talk. They talk a lot because, honestly, here, especially when it's in the middle of winter or just coming up onto spring, there's not a lot to do. So people fill the time by talking. And travelers especially like to talk, as you very well know. There is no end of dangers out in the wilderness. So I will say there most likely is a need for potions of different kinds. I won't lecture you about not needing them, because there are very few things to substitute for proper quick healing out in the cold, where there is no warm shelter and no apothecary or surgeon available, where simply slapping on a poultice and taking a good night's rest is not necessarily a solution. My cures and my solutions tend to be more for the homebodies here. I will, however, recommend, and I'd say this with emphatic confidence, I think you should talk to him if you should meet him. I don't think you're going to need to fight him.
I highly doubted that myself. And
However,
kind of lean forward. Oh, so
however, I won't say that everybody in your caravan will share that opinion. So do be careful. I'd greatly appreciate it if you could keep the bloodshed out here to a minimum. We have so few people as it is, let alone people trying to make the further northern reaches at least a little bit habitable.
Well, I'm glad someone shares my sentiment of wanting to keep the bloodshed to a minimum.
I'm a grandmother. I'm not in the business of burying people younger than me.
Oh, I couldn't agree more.
If I had my way, everybody who was even a day younger than me would die. But, well, the world doesn't seem to particularly care for my opinion. So I do what I can, my best, to spite it.
I'm gonna look up at Karya. I'm gonna be like, "Are we the bad guys?"
We don't have to be. We might be. We might be helping bad people.
I don't... That's another thing that I think I should emphasize. I don't think the people you're working with, let alone the man who hired you, a few of your compatriots on the caravan have told me quite a few things about him, some less believable. I do not believe he is a bad person, or perhaps even evil. I think that is a short-sighted thing to say, because very, very rarely are the fairy tales even remotely accurate. And life does not paint itself in shades of black and white.
Of course. I don't doubt that he's a good person. I don't want to say he's a good person, but...
No, he's definitely not a good
Right.
person. A good person doesn't
Absolutely
make their
not.
living off of loans and demanding money from others and charging them exorbitant interest rates from month to month. I've gone through the books and it's appalling. But it is, through and through, a business. And he is fulfilling his end of the obligation, according to the man you're hunting. I met not too long ago. Not too long, months ago. For all purposes, he was fulfilling his end of the bargain. So it's quite likely that, to my best estimation, the man you're looking for encountered something that he did not expect. And, well, to say he did not expect does not mean that everybody else didn't see it coming. I don't think you're bad children. And I don't think he is either. I just think there's bad circumstances. Please keep that in mind.
Well, I intend to make the best out of them. Regardless, you don't seem to be willing to scam anyone here, and I can appreciate that. I think that's where we'll take our leave for the night. I probably have to get...
Just because I said I don't have a bunch of alchemical reagents doesn't mean I can't help. And she will then push herself out of her chair. And then you hear a very audible crack coming from her back as she stands up a little bit straighter. Takes her crook and hobbles off into the back room. and then comes out with a jar full of what looks to be some sort of ruby-ish dust that she deposits on the coffee table and slides towards Vark with the end of her crook as she takes her seat again and pulls her knitted blanket over her lap.
He carefully, almost with suspicion in his eyes, he like reaches forward, grabs the jar with like 3 fingers, like 2 fingers and a thumb, pulls it towards him, and
Give me a
places
knowledge.
it in the palm of the other hand.
Yeah, give me either a knowledge arcana or a craft alchemy.
Could I also roll that?
Yes, she does gesture for you to pass it between each other so you can look at it.
I will roll alchemy.
Same actually.
Give me an oven minute.
That's a bonus of that.
Oh wait, 26. Let me click it a second time.
Yeah. Blip and my inspiration.
Okay, so a 26 and a 29. Vark, you look it up and down, and then you pass it along the table. Holo takes it up and examines it much the same. And both of you come to the conclusion that this is a alchemical reagent of very versatile use. This is what's known as rubidium.
Oh,
Oh.
I actually looked up stuff like that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
She says, I don't usually make much use of this, and from what the person who gave it to me said, it's really most useful as sort of a substitute material when you can't get hold of something specific. It won't substitute for the very valuable elements of a potion or creation, but weigh this out, and it will usually match whatever you're trying to put in terms of weight. So if you need, say, 5 grams of a reagent to make your potion work, take 5 grams of powder out of that, and it will do nicely. It's not a lot. It will only go so far. Okay, see you in a bit. It will only go so far, but I think that'll do you for a little while. Hopefully you find some more while you're out, other traders with some in stock, or perhaps even find your own. But it will do you nicely for now. We had a wandering alchemist come through. He was very impressed with my recipe for biscuits, and offered me that in trade for my help. It also helps that my dogs pulled him out of the snow at one point. It's an interesting way to meet someone out on your morning constitutional and to find them half buried in a snowdrift.
I can imagine. Well, hello. Thank the woman. He's dead.
No, I'm here. I'm just trying to.
Oh yes, and a couple other little bits of help I can offer you. As she then skewers Holo with a gaze. Says, don't go waving money in people's faces. That's how you get mugged.
Oh.
Estimate I understand that perhaps you don't necessarily intuit these things, so I'll state it very plainly. When you get to a new town, look at it. Estimate the general wealth of the place. Bring out the kind of money you think would be normal to carry around. If you just wave money in people's faces, that will solve most of your problems, but will bring you a whole slew of new ones. There are a lot of people who will see that money and then wait for the best moment to take it away from you, and then it's not going to be a fair trade.
Oh. I wonder if that happened while I was over there. While I was over buying all this stuff.
Keep an eye on him, please.
Then again, I did give that guy 200 gold for free.
I'm sorry, did you just say you gave someone 200 gold for nothing?
This is why I came along. He's not very...
And you've been slacking looking after this boy. How long have you been together?
Literally a few weeks, and when we first got off the boat, I didn't realize how bad it was, and then I quickly came to realize how bad it was, and here I am.
Where I come from, we don't use gold.
You don't...
That explains quite a bit.
Exactly my point.
Very well then. Listen closely. The greatest thing we have in this world is each other. The greatest thing we can do for one another is watch after each other. Each of you is a pillar of strength and weakness, some more than others. But the more we do to stand together and help one another, the stronger we all are as a whole. The man you're looking for understood that principle, even if perhaps in the wrong way. I hope you come to understand it in the right way. And you can start by making sure this fool boy doesn't spend everything he has.
Already on it.
I think I'm older than you guys, though.
Age does not bring wisdom, as is evident by myself.
I'm going
I
to... Where is his coin purse, by the way?
And I'm going to
Still
take
currently
my-
on the table, I assume. It's on the table where she knocked it out of his hand.
I'm gonna take my coin purse back.
I'm gonna steal it when he's sleeping. Anyway.
Hold on.
Wololo. Wololo.
Like dead eyeing you right now. Fucking.
Ah, yes, wololo. Wololo. Yes. She says, well, you're welcome to stay for a bit longer if you wish. If you wish for another cup of tea or maybe another biscuit, I won't complain. You're as welcome here as anybody else in this village. But I would recommend going before it gets dark if you haven't already found a place to sleep.
I
If-
brought a tent.
You brought a tent. Does it have insulation?
I take it that it might. I don't know. It was just it was called the pavilion tent. I didn't see any options for like insulated stuff,
Hmm.
so I take it that it does.
Hmm.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah, pavilion tent. Well, it depends on what pavilion tent you get. Because some are literally just a, we call it a canopy. Others are more like this. Ah, fuck, it didn't embed properly.
Oh, damn it.
Imagine embedding properly. Could not be me.
I was kind of thinking of it looking like a small yurt.
Something like that.
In twisting.
Ah, shit.
Damn it.
I didn't put the bloody parentheses properly.
It doesn't want to.
There we go. I didn't format it correctly. There we go.
That'll work.
Well, let's see. What advice can I offer? Any spare clothes you have, or your backpacks or such, use it to what do you call it? Plug the areas around the bottom of the bottom of the tent to stop extra airflow from getting out and heat escaping. Any other spare clothes you have, put it in the bottom of your, especially if it's something wet or such. Put it in the bottom of your sleeping bag. That'll help it dry out, and also make sure there's less cold air in the bottom of your bag. Don't wear anything. Conversely, don't wear anything wet when going to sleep, or you will get hypothermia. And this is embarrassing, but if you feel the need to pass gas, do it in the tent.
It'll keep it warmer.
I will. Yes, do everything you can to try to keep as much heat in, because when night fully falls, I believe you know this, coming all the way up here, the cold gets unforgiving. Yes. You can continue to join me. On the off chance or the likelihood that you are not able to find somewhere here in the village to stay, bundle up and keep warm. But she then points with her crook towards Hollow Hollow. Not quite as warm as him. There's such a thing as overdoing something.
I actually have something out of character that I may have to mention.
What's up?
Being a fetchling, Vark has cold resistance.
Mm-hmm. And I do believe cold resistance mechanically also gives a resistance to environmental cold.
That's why I'm bringing it up here exactly.
Question is, Ray, when you get a chance, can you take a gander at what I sent you?
Go ahead. I appreciate asking me first, so yes, go ahead.
You treat the people living and coming through here, yes?
When it's necessary, yes. I try to teach them to get by on their own and live independently. But sometimes people do need help, yes.
Well, you take no money, and you do not trade in goods, but you have given us something, and I have been taught to give back something in return. I have studied several tomes and documents of trained scholars of academies and colleges,
Mm-hmm.
and I would like to share some of the chemical recipes I have discovered with you. Perhaps I can give you something in return.
Knowledge for knowledge. She then, with her crook, again, pulls up a footstool, puts her feet up and says, well then, I'd be happy to chat for a while then. If you don't mind me asking, you seem sheltered, or at the very least, a little out of place here. More so than some of the people that I've had pass through. Looks to Karia and to Hollow Hollow.
I do not hail from here, no.
That much is clear.
Not from this nation, not from this land.
But you do seem to know some things that... Something that tell me that you have, at the very least, had an education. You speak with a educated tone. You speak like you know many things, but do not know others. So someone must have taught you.
Not something left behind by someone important to me.
Do you mind me asking who that was?
I was silent for a while.
I understand. You speak of them in past tense, and so it's too much. I will understand.
She is my teacher. That's all I can say.
The look she gives you is less piercing than the one she usually gives, or the one that she just by default seems to be equipped with. Rather, the look she gives you is appraising, but also sympathetic. I understand. It was much the same for me and my grandmother. She bore this role before I did. And I learned much of my philosophy and much of my common knowledge from her. That was back in the day before the tribes were united in any even fastidious fashion. And back when we were referred to as witches, and some of us were hunted. It's from my grandmother that I learned to set those sorts of people straight. Not with violence.
Just whispers.
Yeah, not with sling or arrow or spell we did not have, but with words and with knowledge. With knowledge that we were able to tame this landscape, with knowledge that we were able to bind together and survive. Knowledge is a vicious weapon in the right hands. A blunt club in the hands of others. Your teacher seems to have taught you well. I think she would be proud. Though I think it's wise now that you're out in the world, as there are some lessons that books and academia do not teach. Now then, you two boys, why don't you go out for a walk? Take the rubidium with you. So she doesn't know what it is actually called. No. Yeah, take the rubidium with you. Now might be the time to go looking for a place to sleep. Vark, why don't you show me those recipes? Maybe I won't be able to use them, but maybe someone else who comes through here will find them useful.
Gladly.
Sounds good. Hello. Why don't we get your tent set up outside and I'll get, maybe I can hunt something, get pelts, something to keep it a little more warm.
I can get to work on that. Also, how do you want to split this? He's gonna look at Vark. When he says this.
Right when I fucking took a bite from my sandwich, goddammit.
Vark is he's eating a biscuit. He's eating a biscuit.
He's eating the biscuit. He takes a breath to speak, and some of the flakes from the oat biscuit go down his throat.
You can take it with you. We will discuss the share once we are back in the wagon.
Okay. How much is in this bottle, by the way?
Estimated wise, it will do you for about 500 gold worth of reagents.
Oh, shit. Oh.
Damn.
That will go quickly in some potions, unless you're doing only
That
like
is true.
first level potions.
Scratch his neck.
Got some of that red powder.
Got some of that spice melange.
The spice must flow.
And here's another interesting
Spice
thing
must
I
flow.
need to ask because of
Minecraft.
the type of witch I am. Can I use this to make poisons?
No.
Okay.
This is an alchemical reagent. This is not a poison.
Okay. I want to make some poisons.
Yeah. Just like it won't work for like if you want to do a friggin' divine spell component or an arcane spell component. This is good for alchemy.
Okay.
So yes, we will hop back over to the other three
Yes.
as they are going around knocking on doors looking for places to sleep.
FBI, open up. No.
Knock, knock, open up the door. It's real.
Not the hip hop, stain the steel. No.
I actually just love him, DMX. I was very surprised when I found out just what kind of guy he was. Anyway, or say I wasn't
Love-
surprised.
I loved DMX. Rip DMX. He was the sweetest man in the world.
Yeah, up until
R.I.P..
up until he started calling a bunch of people the F word.
Yeah, yeah. But he liked flowers and his dogs.
Hmm. Well, he didn't like
Anyways,
cats.
R.I.P.
Cats are selfish. Cats.
He taught his dog how to ad lib in his rap. Anyways, I'm sorry. Continue.
So, Mallory, Flick, and Chaiko are currently out and about, knocking on doors. How do you guys want to do these? Want to do it like we did before?
I want to try.
Go.
Yeah, I want to try and persuade people by saying that we are temporary visitors here. That we won't be in town for too long, as we are on a mission elsewhere. But that we need some variety of lodging, and we cannot go to the inn because it is currently filled up, and we cannot currently bring our caravan into town because it is too large.
That sounds awfully diplomatic. That sounds like a diplomacy roll.
Exactly.
What about for Mallory and Chaiko?
Oh,
Dear me.
it's not quite as diplomatic as I was hoping it would be. Putting it mildly.
Well, can I actually, for the sake of doing this canonically, can I take out a piece of, can I, scrounge or buy a decent piece of either lumber or wood, something, and start carving a a weird science, or start making one essentially.
You're doing
Just for the
weird
sake,
science
just
on
for
a.
the sake, just because for the sake of it,
Sure.
because I can pretty much tell how this is going.
The if you stop by the lumber mill, you're able to just get a piece of raw, barely worked wood for like a couple coppers. Mostly,
Fair
they seem to be more we call it preoccupied with their current work and want you out of their hair.
Done. So how much is that from my pockets? You say?
Couple coppers.
All right, so let's go with like 5, just for OCD's sake.
Yes, must state the round
All right.
numbers.
I was about to say I
Hey,
could use
man.
all the help I can get with that roll.
Sorry, but yeah, no. As the rest of them are doing, as Flick is currently going around
And
doing
dropping the ball.
yeah. Chaiko quickly realizes, okay. Yes, I'll be right back. I can go do something. I just need to get something real quick.
Yeah, I got you. I won't stray too far.
And for you, quick question, Rami.
Hmm?
I'm looking at a spell. Just for your quick question, I put it onto my Roll20 sheet real quick, but it put it as a 3rd level spell, and it should be level 2.
1 second.
Just because I don't know what's happening there. I should have access to it.
Considering it's the spell that I thought it was, it should be 1st level.
No, communal.
Oh, communal is, yeah, it depends on your class. Yeah, it's level 3 if you're an alchemist, but for every other class it's level 2.
Ah, okay, so alright. So yeah, that's one I'll be doing. That's one I'll be making. For the
Okay.
sake of...
What are you gonna carve it into?
Essentially, what I'm doing is I'm using, if it's alright, to use my nail, because certainly fox. Carving essentially a wooden cross, because
That's fair.
holy.
So you're gonna carve it into a cross shape, and through what to other people is a strange method, imbue it with an effect.
Yeah, first it should take damn, it's gonna take 4 hours to do. Damn. Well, better late than never.
Yep. As you get to work on that, like whether it's on the move or what, like while the others are knocking around from house to house, you're going to be solely concentrated on this. So you're going to be occupied with this for a while.
Yep.
Mallory, what would you like to do?
I was muted. The so what what's her name again? As Chaiko or
You know me as
Ayako.
Ayako. Ayako.
Yeah, Ayako. Was making that holy symbol was actually I don't know how to say this in English, but it fits well with what I wanted to go for as well.
Oh.
Since I am technically an angry cleric,
Mm-hmm.
and pulling at the heartstrings of people of religious beliefs is, while it's a little bit it does get the job done in the end.
Mm-hmm.
While normally Mallory is kind of standoffish, looks rather pompous or even a bit annoyed at times, he kind of ruffles his hair, puts his holy symbol right where you can see it, like right on top of the large cross that would be the chest embossing that he already has on his clothes. Wear his cape a little bit less regally. Make sure the fur doesn't look too
Goofy.
too poofy. And then finds a house that would have sort of some cleanliness to it, a size that would fit possibly at least 3 people, since we're looking for a house with the 3 of us.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what the situation is with everybody else, since we, split up, or at least Mallory doesn't know it. And he would just find one with some sort of obvious religious symbol, or at least looks like someone who has some strong, or at least good aligned convictions.
That sounds like a knowledge religion roll.
Yes. Let's see. A 12.
Okay. So, you know, at least from where you were from, that the Mordani Confederacy, at the very long ago, branched off from the Gazrich Papacy. So, from the continent from which you were on, some people eventually went north and founded the Mordani Confederacy. How that all happened, you don't know, but you know that at the very least, they worship one of the core 3 gods that you do. That being he who sleeps in night. Or he who sleeps in the dark. The slumbering dreamer. What was it? Yeah, the name was the Dreamer in the Dark, I think. So yes, anyway, he is the embodiment of gentle darkness, nighttime, stars, moon, as well as dreams and other such.
Okay.
And the people of the Mordani Confederacy worship him as their de facto god, whereas other sections on the continent tend to emphasize the other 2 gods, his sisters. That being the Mother of Mercy, and your primary god, the Lady of Light.
Perfect.
I see.
Those are the faiths that you're used to, that you have at times heard of other faiths. And this is, like, you came across that at Haven, when people worship the wheels, those being the sister goddesses that watch over the archipelago paradise and shield it from the harshness of the open sea. And now you're here, and you're starting to get a taste of that again, because there are religious symbols here in the windows or hung up on the doors that you don't recognize. This place is, as with many nations, is going by the various symbols, is a what do you call it? Is a pantheocracy. They worship many gods here. You can kind of tell what each of the gods is, but you don't know what their names are. Some their symbols are like a sheaf of wheat next to a sickle, or there's a god symbol that is a hammer crashing against a rock with a chisel. Very clearly, harvest god, craft god, protection god, so on and so forth. But you don't know any of these. So there's no way of knowing which god it represents besides maybe trying to trace it back to some of the smaller gods of your faith, or just taking a shot in the dark.
I'll try to trace it back to some of the smaller gods.
Okay, another knowledge religion, please.
All right. An even worse than 8.
Yeah, I'm sorry to say you're drawing a blank on, because the faith in, like, back in your homeland almost exclusively focused on your primary goddess, that being the Lady of Light. And more specifically, your nation was focused on the angels that were in service to her, and how your folk, the Aasimar, were descended from those angels, and as such were themselves, in the eyes of your theocracy, divinity and the objects of worship. That is a very long way of saying your nation was too self-centered and too divulgent of propaganda for you to ever have really much of much opportunity to soak up other religions, particularly when you were far too engrossed and far too busy running an entire county. So, this is, long story short, you don't recognize any of these, and you don't know what gods they would be connected to, either in your faith or any other. Maybe you had the time to study up at some point, learn, talk to people, but yeah, you're drawing a blank. At least in terms of what religions may be up here in the north.
I see. Well, there is the other fallback, my charming good looks. I'm gonna knock on the...
Oh, all right, time for another diplomacy, I guess, or a bluff, depending. Okay, Flick.
Yes.
Getting to your roll. Sorry to say, but could you roll me a perception?
Sure. Let me look for it. There it is. I take it I don't quite get anything from that other.
No, actually, you hear like a lot of whispers wherever the three of you go. But you're not able to actually make out what they're whispering. You go up to several doors, and every time you knock, and every time the door opens, if it opens, you get like a single eye peering at you through the door crack, looks you up and down, and then just shuts.
Flick, each time this happens, and each time he gives like a very similar spiel about what they're doing here.
Oh, we've been raided.
Or rather, after each of these attempts, he will kind of stroke his chin as he walks along and just mutters to himself, "Am I being too long-winded with this?"
1 second. We've been raided by the Dungeon Lounge. Hi, it's as I remember, it's currently Elizabeth and Flora. They were playing Raft. Welcome in.
Ooh,
Oh, and Lady Beaver. Welcome in. Thank you for following.
Hello.
welcome.
So, welcome in, everybody. We're currently playing our Pathfinder game. We were going to play that yesterday, but there was an internet outage, and Frey was kind enough to give up today's slot to allow us to play Pathfinder today.
Yee.
No worries. I appreciate you guys coming in. And Licky Glock, of course, being the worst, calling Flora a raccoon as usual. I kid. You're great, Licky Glock. Anyway, Welcome, everybody. You're in the midst of people trying to find a place to sleep in the middle, in a cold, harsh northern wasteland. They found a village. They stopped
Things are
there.
going swimmingly.
It's going great, as you can tell here by the successive rolls of 8, 12, 8, 8. They've been doing great in that regard.
Hey, listen, I did fine.
You did fine.
What?
You guys found the village grandmother.
For your information, my first roll was a nat 30.
Yes, it was.
And it was all downhill from there.
Well, it's a
It
nat.
was all
It's
about
a
from there.
it's a nat 20. It's a modified 30.
I guess, yeah.
So yes,
Whatever.
yes. As people keep insisting, Flora is 3 raccoons and a trench coat. This joke, to those who are not familiar, basically everybody here, that started when I think it was a Stardew Valley playthrough, and Flora was digging through trash cans. So yes, and the joke apparently stuck. Poor Flora. Anyway, she's a mighty and dignified dragon. Anyway, so after successively being turned away and not even being told to kick rocks, you're just the door is just slammed in your face. Mallory, what was that diplomacy for? Another try at it?
Oh, yeah, you said it was either a diplomacy or
Right,
a
right,
thing
because
roll.
you hadn't rolled diplomacy yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you all. Please pull up a chair, enjoy, and watch. We'll be going for, I think, another 30 to 40 minutes at most.
Yeah.
So yeah. And I think once we're done with this, we'll just take a quick bio break for those that need it, and then also, as I should say, thank you all for entrusting your community with us. Please go get a drink, take a break, relax. I know that after stream, blech can be nasty. So yes, Mallory. While Flick successively struggles to try and win the hearts and minds of the people here, can I also get a perception from you?
Me?
Yes. And Licky Glock,
Okay.
Licky Glock has redeemed self-care. Yes, Dungeon Line, do self-care. Everybody else, do self-care. Sit up straight, stretch, take a drink.
Laying back
Yep.
down.
Eh.
You could say Flick is getting the cold shoulder.
Eh.
I would like to take 1d100 psychic damage.
Kaboom.
I would like to take 1d100 psychic damage.
That'll be 90.
You took 90
Flick
damage.
folds immediately.
Flick just...
As an inquisitor, it's my religious belief that I have to smite you down.
So yeah, no.
Understandable.
Flick as that pun runs through his shoulders, like, man, people are giving me the cold shoulder. Much like Obi-Wan in the trilogies, just disappears, and all that's left is his robe.
I've become a force ghost at last.
Mm. Yeah, Licky Lock gets a noms. So, unfortunately, you're being given the cold shoulder. Their response is positively frigid, as Mallory watches you do this, and then tries his own angle with all of this. Sort of readjusts clothing, positions the holy symbol where it's most prominent. Kind of drops a little bit of the hoity out of his toity. Brings his shoulders down a little bit. Actually, like, takes his chin to a level where he's not looking directly down at people. Goes up to a door, one that he notices hasn't been knocked on by, at least, he hasn't seen anybody knock on or try yet. Whether it's other people in the caravan or Flick. And while he's going, he hears much the same whispering that Flick did, only this time he actually is able to hear some of it. A lot of it is a mix of, you see they have a dragon. Look at those vampire thralls walking around like they're people. These outsiders think they're doing coming through here in such a large force. What, they want to eat us out of house and home? And a lot of things to that effect. Other things such as, we've already got so little. What are they coming here trying to get everything we have left? So yes, a fair bit of distrust. Walking up to one of the doors, you knock. And at first there's no answer. Eventually the door does crack open slowly. And the person that greets you is a little girl. She is dressed in what looks to be a small, almost like a bell-shaped fur dress, coat, and small leather fur boots. And for a second, you see a painful resemblance to someone you know dearly.
Oh no.
The wide eyes glistening in the setting sun of the evening, the shape, the profile of the dress, and her long twin-tailed hair, which is straw yellow. Good lurk. It's painful for a moment. Nostalgic in possibly the worst way. But it passes. And she's just, you see, when it does pass and the flashbacks go by, standing in front of you at about thigh height is a young girl dressed in mittens and booties and a mud brown leather coat that billows out in a bell shape, staring up at you, and her mouth hangs open slightly. As you see her face and her eyes are illuminated not just by the setting sun, but also the light of your halo behind your head.
Mallory would just kneel down, or rather squat down, to meet the same level of the little girl. And give a small, try not to force it, just smiling as much as he can.
Mm-hmm.
While seeming natural and not suspicious at all.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd say, be not afraid, dear child.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Oh dear.
The context of
Oh,
that
boy.
that sentence alone, coming from someone who is Angelkin. Okay. Anyway, meme aside, you kneel down, coming to eye, or well, maybe about eye level. You're about now where the crown of her head is maybe up to your shoulder or something. And you try your best in a gentle tone to tell her to be not afraid. As when you're sinking down onto your knee, she takes a almost startled step back as if broken from the trance. And what comes out of her mouth is something more akin to a squeak than words.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to seek refuge. Is, your mother or father home?
Continuing to look up at you, now no longer craning her neck back, but they're just tilted up slightly. But she purses her lips for a second. Pale as her face is, it blooms a little bit red. Hey, Pedro, how you doing? As she sort of wrings her mittened hands, she says, "No."
No. Are you alright being by yourself at this hour?
I'm a big girl. I can take care of myself.
Well, I don't know how to handle kid.
Hold the
Slowly walks away.
Hold the child gentle.
I will say, given the role that you had for diplomacy, I will give you a little bit of a gimme.
Don't say do not be afraid to a child.
As she asserts that she's okay. And with your perception check, how alert you are at the moment. A quick glance through the doorway is it is not blocked by her at all. You see what looks to be a home in some disuse. There's obvious. I think there's some things that are obviously used often. Like there's one chair at a small dining table that looks more worn than the others, or at the very least less dusty. There's sections of the house that are a little more dusty than others. There seems to be a barrel in the back corner with a lid half affixed, as if by someone who couldn't quite get the force in or the height in to try and get the lid packed on properly. To your best estimation, this child has been living alone for a good bit.
Well, seeing this, Mallory would, in the most careful way he possibly can, or most delicately, if I should say it like that, he'd ask her, how long have you been by yourself?
She contemplates for a moment. Seems to be like she brings up her mitts in front of her face, and for a second it takes you to understand what exactly she's doing, and you realize she's counting on her fingers as the little her pudgy, snow-burnt cheeks sort of puff up a little bit under the as the scarf she has around her neck sort of pushes her cheeks up, and her lips purse as she furrows her brow in concentration. And then continues to furrow her brow and then says, I don't know.
Well, were they there since the last time the neighbors found harvest?
Yeah. There was the harvest, then there was the solstice. Papa was drinking with Uncle Ted. As she cranes her head down a little bit, her hair falls a little bit to the side. You see her ears are lightly pointed. So she's either elf or half-elf. And she continues to contemplate with her hands still sort of suspended in front of her face as if still counting. There was the harvest, there was the brewing. Papa was drinking with Uncle Ted. Mama was threshing. And she was packing the malt. Then Mama went to Granny Aching for something. Yeah, one second. Yes, and I spent most of the day with Thunder and Lightning, and then Dad was gone for a bit, and Mom said she'd be back soon, and if I got hungry to grab something out of a pickle barrel, and that she'd be back in a couple days.
But it looks like it has been more than just a couple days, hasn't it?
Her face falls a little bit, and as she nods in a very small manner, you notice the very small pearls of tears misting up in the corner of her eyes.
Well, Mallory isn't very well versed in the ways of consoling people, but he knew one thing that he himself found rather nice when he was ever sad when he was a small kid. He would, let's see, what do I have?
Drive his enemies into financial disparity.
Now,
That
I
was
don't
more
think-
that was more of an adult Mallory thing.
Yes. No. He would give her to distract her just a little bit, he'd give her his beast whistle.
Beast whistle. Okay. They hand it over to her, and she kind of looks it over and looks up to you as if wondering what exactly the purpose of this is.
You see, when I'm sad or when I feel upset, small, or weak, there were only really 3 creatures I could depend on. One will come at the beck and call of this whistle. You can blow it if you want.
She looks at it, unsure, and brings it to her lips and gives a little, with the possibly the gentlest and least enthusiastic blow you've ever seen on a whistle. And then she takes a deep breath and then just blasts that fucker.
Oh dang. Well, Schultz should definitely be hearing that now.
It takes a couple minutes, and in the case of the other 3, as they're working at getting the tent put out and set up, they see just this brown rocket shoot out from between the flaps of the caravan of the wagon, just blast out at full speed, and then rocket off, flapping, circling the town a couple times, and then diving. As a couple minutes later, your falcon glides down. It dives, and then turns its wings upwards, flaps several times, and comes down in a glide with his talons then firmly clamping onto Mallory's shoulder.
I have a quick question about that. How loud was this whistle, and how close were we in comparison?
Well, that's the thing.
It-
It's not in a spectrum most people can hear.
Yeah, it's for birds.
Bird whistle. Yep. I will say Vair would have immediately shot his head up and looked around like a meerkat.
Yeah, no, because at this point I was under the assumption that Hollow Hollow and I were going back, so probably at least not. I'm not going to cut into the scene, but I probably, if I saw Mallory's hawk, would probably try and follow it to get over to them to tell them there's almost no fucking place to stay.
Okay. Well,
Would I be able to hear it?
well, the thing is,
Yeah, that's a cat.
you're I'm gonna say no.
Okay.
You are a cat, but you're not necessarily a cat. You are a cat person. And cat folk, despite being related to cats in some ways, do not
Mhm.
share all their racial abilities.
Okay.
It's how about hello? I doubt it, but how about does he hear?
About
Does
the
he ever
cut?
hear it?
No, he isn't.
I'm just gonna go
Okay.
ahead and assume that the player characters can't hear it.
Generally speaking, they can't. Karya, though, you're like halfway through knocking the pegs into the frozen ground. Are you going to drop that and just go, or
I mean, yeah, at that point, I'm not gonna like sprint off, but I'll probably just, go, all right, it's getting late. At this point, I'd rather make sure everybody's together. And I'll tell Hollow Hollow that I'm gonna go get the others.
Red? How dare you?
Red is here too, just to insult.
Yep, just to call people stinky.
That's okay.
Wow.
Coming from Red, that doesn't offend me too much.
Good God. Yeah, I mean, yeah, she is the expert. She is the expert on being stinky. So So, you go off at a pace, going like letting the others know, hey, I'm gonna go. Looks like the Falcon's gone off. I'm gonna go try and follow it, see if I can get the grab the others.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm going for. You took a shower because you needed one.
Anyway, so the Falcon lands, looks at you, Mallory, then sees the child holding the whistle, and then sort of hops from you to the banister on the front porch of the house, and then hops onto the kid's shoulders, which then immediately almost brings her down. She's like forced to like bow halfway to the floor. As the Falcon just sort of like does this thing where it trades its feet back and forth across her shoulders, where she's gives a panicked yelp as your Falcon tries to understand what the hell is happening here, why she's holding the whistle, why she blasted it quite so loud, and where the hell the danger is. Before then, sort of settling, and the girl eventually does begin to giggle as your Falcon is taken to sort of combing through her hair with its beak, trying to inspect her and get her measure. Yes, as Neshio, as Grim puts it, this isn't a bird nest. What is this? What have you put me up to? So yes, wow, we got everybody here today. Jeez. So the bird just kind of settles one talon on each shoulder, sort of nestling his chest feathers up against the back of her head, and occasionally sort of like doing that jerky bird head thing that birds do, sort of combing through her hair, inspecting her. You also know that falcons are at the very least partially reliant on their smell when it comes to things that are close up. So it's very obvious that he's familiarizing himself with her, as she very obviously is holding the whistle and isn't the source of danger here. And as she's like her head has literally been turned into a bird's nest by a falcon that is about half her size. She's giggling a little bit, and every now and again gives a little toot on the bird whistle, to which the falcon immediately stands again at like head goes immediately to attention, up, looking around, flaps its wings a couple times, throwing the child a little bit off balance, forcing her to reestablish her footing. You swear that this thing could probably fly off with her, given the right circumstances and a strong backwind. As the falcon is now looking up at you, Mallory, and going, "What the hell is this?" Not actually, but it's giving you. Well, falcons perpetually look angry, but giving you an angry look.
Yeah. Well, Mallory would first introduce Schultz to the little girl. He'd say he would go, "Little lady, this is Schultz, animal companion, lifelong friend, and a good ally in combat.
Like
He has
brings
been with me."
brings one little pudgy mittened hand up to the falcon, who at first examines the hand and then pecks at it once, which does nothing to her because of the mitten. And then she runs her mitten across Schultz's neck and goes, "Hi, Schultz."
And Schultz, this is little lady.
I'm Mina. I'm sorry. Mom always told me to be polite to people. She then looks up at the bird and looks at you and goes, can I help you?
Well, initially I was going to request for a momentary place of residence. However, I do not feel very good asking that of you without any remuneration. So,
with every
may I
every word that's more than 3 syllables you use, you visibly losing her, going by her facial expression.
I feel bad trying to find a nice place to sleep at, without doing anything in return. So can I clean up your house a bit in return for me and my friends? My companions to stay for the night.
She, again, still kind of wobbling a bit back and forth due to the weight of the bird resting on her shoulders. Seems to be, her hands are fidgeting with the whistle a little bit as she seems to contemplate. And then, what would Mom do? Sure. As long as you make the bed when you're done, and I already said you were going to clean the house. Okay. Okay. How many friends do you have?
I did make the mistake of calling them friends. See, there is Ayako, there is Flick, and I suppose there is the other 3.
Just as you say that, Karya is coming up along the road.
And there's one right now.
Menacing dragon man.
Yeah, I'll kind of shout out, Mallory, where are the others? We're probably not going to find anything here.
Karya, I will say that Vair has been... his hackles are a little bit up after whatever it was that sent that falcon flying like that. And you notice that his head jerks a little bit every single time. His head is jerking every now and again. And the moment you're on that street, his head seems to zero in on one particular angle, and then he takes off.
Oh!
And then he slithers right past Mallory. He's up the steps, and he's basically got, within like 3 seconds, he's got his snoot just jammed right up in Mina's face.
I'm there too, right? I'm in the.
Yeah,
there too.
you're occupied with making your little
Yeah.
your little
Yeah.
project there, but yes, you're there.
Okay.
And he's just
What does it mean, alright?
But Vair is like their belly across the porch steps, and just draconic muzzle just immediately in her face, like centimeters away, as she still has the whistle in her mouth.
Yeah. I'm gonna in draconic shout out, Vair, you're smarter than that. You have a 16 intelligence. What are you doing?
Vair immediately looks to you, hisses in draconic and says, "Yeah, well, you don't act any smarter." And then turns in his immediate, like, Komodo dragon style with his forked tongue just sort of flicking it across her face as she's frozen rigid still, with the bird still every now and again like readjusting its footing and now flapping its wings and screeching at Vair.
Ooh.
I'm gonna
Ooh.
step on over, and
Can I hold what I'm doing for a moment and take a deep breath and attempt to put myself between the two, or I guess three, because bird,
Oh.
child, dragon. Can I attempt that just to halt my process for a moment?
Okay, sure.
yeah, I was gonna make a what could I do to get Vair back over to me?
Diplomacy.
I could, yeah, oh yeah, I'd have to do diplomacy. Yeah, he's not an animal.
He's certainly too smart to be handled like an animal.
Yeah, he absolutely is. I bet I couldn't intimidate him. That doesn't make sense. Yep. All right. Well,
Yeah, I like to put
I
my.
don't know, you could bluff him and say you got candy in your pocket or something.
no, that won't work. I could jingle a coin, but no. No, I'll go ahead and just not the best, but I'm also not the best at diplomacy. I'll kind of at this point, while now Chico has intervened as well. We'll just kind of like, Vair, you're making a scene. It's an annoying whistle. I'll break it later.
You will do no such thing. Oh wait, no, you're speaking in Draconic.
Yeah, I'm speaking in Draconic.
Yeah. Also, Neshio says if you want to go big bigot, you can handle animal anything with a mind. But those may not be recommended. Yeah, so it would be worse than how Mallory was just speaking to what do you call it?
Horse.
To the child.
Yeah.
The whole baby talk is just like, I need you to to back away from the child, you stupid lizard. Something along those lines. Yes. Talk to it like an animal. Be treated like get treated like a chew toy.
Hey, quick question. From where Holo Holo's at, can he hear what's going on?
I think
You're out by the wagon at the moment.
Because I was gonna have Holo Holo be that one cat from Puss in Boots, because he can understand Draconic and be like, oh.
Ooh.
Oh. Okay, so while I'm in between these two, now Chico's not dumb. She knows she knows enough. This dragon is trained to some extent, but not aware of how aggressive it can be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Give me real quick. Give me a sense motive.
Okay. Sense motive is, hold on. 16.
Okay. Vair, for his part, being a tiny dragon and looking like an oversized, particularly feline, scaly creature, does de facto seem perpetually pissed off, much like the bird he is currently facing off against. It's in the expression. They don't have the same facial muscles we do, so it's harder to tell.
Yeah.
But in his body language, as well as in the bird's body language, the bird seems more or less perturbed by the fact that the giant fucking alligator creature is within less than a meter of it. But Vair doesn't seem to be aggressive towards the girl. He just seems like he's like overly curious. He's tasting her with his tongue, which is in his to most reptilians is a way of smelling someone and identifying them. He's not displaying any aggression. He's not hissing. He's not baring teeth or claws or anything like that. He just
Okay, can I go? I know this might seem insane to some, but can I attempt to say to the dragon that I don't know if you can understand common? Go, can we not? Can you back away? This is not a good idea.
He actually does know common. He knows Draconic and common.
Yeah.
No, I don't know that.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying. I had to look. I was like,
You try to give me a diplomacy, as Karya does as well as Karya. You Oh boy,
finally.
Karya, as you're like, Vair,
we go.
you're like, Vair, you're making a fucking scene. And it's like, don't tell me. His response in a hissing draconic is, "Don't tell me what to do. You called me stupid, stupid.
I didn't call you stupid.
You said I was smarter than this, implying I'm acting stupid, stupid."
I'm saying that you're acting like a house cat.
Why is
And I say you act like a Labrador.
why is fucking Vair so like sassy?
Because he's a deep dragon, and because
Because
Because we
deep
are
dragons,
kin.
for one, they're brothers. For two, deep dragons are called out as being particularly feline in shape.
absolutely they are. Yeah, 5e did them dirty. They're very
Turned
pretty.
them turned them into fucking mushrooms with blind
Yeah, they
fish
made them
eyes.
chickens, unbirthed chickens.
They made them
either way.
what we called chicken chicken embryos with mushrooms on the neck and blind fish eyes.
They killed my boys. Anyway,
Poor things. Anyway, yes. So, yeah, Chieko, or Aiko, in your case, you try to approach Vair. You try to throw in some body language just in case he doesn't understand, and you go like, you pretty much just try to say a little bit of personal space for the young lady. To which Vair then stops, gives her a couple more flicks across the cheek with the tongue. Seems to come to a decision. If I remember correctly. Pets. Yes, this is the image we're using for Vair currently. Yeah, like that. Although he himself is far less sinister in actuality.
Yeah. I can't believe we're having a Pokemon battle.
Oh
Yeah,
boy.
there's a-
To which
That'll go.
Vair huffs, takes a couple steps backwards slowly, his belly dragging through the snow on the ground, as he snorts and says, "Yeah, well, priestess lady is right. Okay, can't blame me if a dumb bird doesn't know how to do personal space." As he then sort of again waddles back a couple of steps and then plops himself in the snow, still observing the young girl.
Michael lets out a deep breath of relief. Oh, like a
I'll
crisis of
You
ruin so
worried you're
much.
gonna have to flush this crocodile into the sewers?
Well, so, yeah, essentially. No.
Wouldn't that be wouldn't that be a horrible thing to happen? Anyway,
Can I turn
Yeah.
to the child?
yes, you may.
I like to check on the child to make sure she's, not mentally scarred.
She seems shocked. She's definitely got her eyes locked on Vair at the moment. As she then goes,
it didn't work.
big dog?
Yes, dog. It's a dog. Don't worry.
It's a dog.
Glances over at the dragon, and
The Vair just shrugs, flops out its big forked tongue, then rolls over onto its back and then rolls around in the snow a couple times. And she starts giggling.
Okay, that's cute.
She starts giggling and clapping her hands a couple times, and then almost stumbles and falls over because she still has the weight of the falcon on her shoulders.
I go like to let out a giant sigh and find the nearest thing to sit down on.
And get back to her work, I guess.
That she
I'm
let out a sigh of relief that everything didn't go wrong, and after collecting herself, then get back to work. It's like one of those.
Nothing can go wrong. Oh God!
It all went wrong. Yeah, no, don't worry. Karia will at this point walk over and kind of crouch down in the snow next to Vair and go, "What was that?" It doesn't matter. And he'll look at the
Vair will stop rolling for a second. Like lying on his side, one reptilian eye will look up at you, and then his jaws will part as he hisses out something in Draconic, saying, "Just because you can't appreciate something that's cute doesn't mean I can't."
Okay. Anyways, I can't disagree with him. He'll then Kara will then turn to
You-
the girl, still crouched because he's well aware that he's tall and scary, and go. I apologize for that. My
Dog.
Blushing,
Right.
blushing slightly and putting her hands out. She's like, no, don't apologize. He's very cute.
Did you hear that, Vair? You're very cute.
He again lolls his tongue out and just sort of lies in the snow, giving the girl goo goo eyes. As best as best a dragon can.
In Draconic, I'm gonna go. You are so full of it, and I'm weirdly proud.
He just says, "Bite me."
Anyways, I'll turn back.
Arya did proceed to bite him.
No, no, we're fine. He'll turn back and go. Well, now that that's settled, what I was trying to say, before that is, I don't think we're going to be finding any place to stay tonight. But Hollow Hollow and I have gotten to work on setting up a tent. Unless you guys have found something,
She kind of looks at her mittens and says, points to Mallory and says, he said, you guys needed a place to stay.
Oh, well, that makes things easier. Are you offering less?
Oh, it's Mom was always very is always very welcoming of people. Says we should always help each other.
Okay. Well, with that being said, he'll stand up to his full height and kind of clap, and he'll look down to Vair and go, "Well, I'll leave my cute
Dog.
dog."
Yeah, I go take.
There's almost
I'm never gonna call him a dog. I will just always pause and let Chico call him a dog. I respect him that much.
yeah. He's now like sitting up again now on his belly, stretched out, legs underneath him, as he then gives possibly the worst equivalent to a hissing bark you could that could even get close to a dog's bark.
Bilingual.
Wow.
What the fuck?
Did you just say bilingual?
I
Yeah.
did.
Bilingual.
Bilingual. My dragon.
I
is
s-
bilingual. No,
I-
my
I-
dragon's trilingual.
Yeah, I'm fluent in dragon, but I speak a little dog.
That's true.
Woof.
Regardless, I'll say, well, my dear friend here, will keep you company then if I can go and grab, well, the rest of them.
How many?
Two more, including myself, and these here 7.
There's a total.
Oh.
Aren't there 8 of us?
7.
8. Yeah, 8 technically, counting. Wait, no,
Counting Vair, yeah, 8. 7.
Counting
typically.
Vair,
Siren is
8.
also here.
Siren would make us 7. So right now, technically, there's only 6 of us. But yeah, Siren is here in spirit, unconscious. So
Drifting through the
Oh,
heat, they're dreaming.
dreaming.
Yeah.
Jamie.
Took one too many hits of that dream tea, huh?
Mm.
Yeah, exactly. Too much dream tea. So yeah, with Vair counting as an actual entity, not just a pet. Yeah, that'd be 8 in total. But I think that Vair will position himself with the child.
Then
Hold on, before you do, how much space do you have in this house?
There's my bed and 2 others. Probably going to have to. Well, we do have a couple guest beds, but some of you are probably gonna have to sleep on the.
I'm good with that.
I would turn to Kari and say, and well, I'll say it broadly to all parties here and go. Are you sure it would be a good idea to and not enforce, but impose ourselves on a child who's home alone?
Yeah.
Okay, and it's full of booby traps. What did I say? No.
It's a mimic. She's living in a mimic.
She's home alone.
Oh, God.
Yes. No.
A
It's.
twist.
I'm sorry, I'm the one who has to be the voice of reason here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
It's
no.
very rare for.
So yeah, the question posed was: is it right to impose on a child on her own?
Yes. Do us adults think sleeping in a house with only a singular child would be a good idea?
Yes. Now, here's why. And I'm gonna and Karya's gonna go.
Kari's going. Hear me out.
Now hear me out.
No.
Heaven, Lords above.
All I'm going to say, very simply, is that we won't be freeloading because I know someone with not only a large pocket of gold, but it's very loose. And if we tell him that we managed to find a place for something that would just be so, I don't know, let's say 100 gold, it could change the
50.
girl's life and
50.
we get a place to stay. 50.
50, no more.
He gave 200 away.
Listen, yes, I know. I'm aware. That doesn't mean we should use and abuse him as well.
That's true.
Let's make it a mutual benefit to both parties. One feels like they're helping another, while the other doesn't rob the other.
Fine, 50. Anyways, I'm going to get him. Vair, stay with
Fine.
the girl. Make sure she's safe. I'm gonna...
Thank you, Julian.
Yeah, I just immediately lie. Like,
He said-
it's 100 gold.
You
that
tell-
means nothing to me.
Yeah, you tell Vair to make sure she's safe, which he responds, "If anybody comes within a meter of her, I'll rip them limb from limb."
Yeah. Nothing Vair.
Me comes over the meter. Oh god!
Death roll.
Death roll, just immediate psychic flame blast.
Yes. So
Too close.
to skip forward a little bit, you go off. You
All make me stress.
get you fucking or Flick has just been like drifting in the background of all this.
Poor Flick is still trying to go around and ask people if he can stay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just fucking around. He's
Yep.
like talking to everybody.
Yeah, so eventually Karya grabs Vark and Holo Holo, telling them that the tent will tentatively not be necessary. They found lodging that you can pay for.
Holo Holo, who just finished setting up the tent.
Oh, I would actually say, should you guys have decided like solidly on going with the tent, and that had been your only option, I would have had you guys rolling strength checks because I don't know if you've ever hammered stakes into the snowy frozen ground full of rocks before, but it is not easy.
Karya could have done it.
Karya could have. Yeah.
All right, good.
I love Hollow Hollow. Yeah.
Left him alone, you bastard.
Oh no, you left him alone with all that money.
With the Varks. So, yeah. Anyway,
Oh, me and Vark are doing the book club right now. It's okay while they were talking.
yes, we're discussing the
Oh, I
merits
should
of
be a part
rubidium.
Yeah.
So yes, the
I meet the intelligence requirements for the book club.
do you really?
Ow.
Do you?
I have an 18 intelligence. He said it was 17 to get in.
You have the number, but do you have the mentality?
Yes. I'm
How
very
do you?
Dragon, half dragon.
half
Oh.
dragon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, stupidly good rolls on stats.
I got stupidly good rolls. It was almost 18s on everything.
It was.
Oh
I
my God,
remember
after
that.
all this time, I forgot that rolling stats was a thing. I
Yeah.
only remember point by.
Yeah. So anyway, right. So you go and grab them. I assume you guys pull down the tent. Hmm?
I was saying,
You got cut off there. For what were they
Wait.
saying?
Wait.
can we,
Fine, yeah.
can we raise the intelligence requirement for the book club?
I will literally raise my intelligence just to be petty.
Jesus.
Putting the
Anyway.
book club aside.
So
Yeah, let's
I'm
go.
assuming you guys pull down the tent, put it back in the wagon, seal that shut, lock all the chests and everything, and head in. So yes. I forgot. What name did I give her? I actually literally forgot because I've got so
Mila.
many.
When
Mina, right? Yes.
when Flick is collected, he'll be like, "Oh, thank goodness! Anything to get me to stop talking to these people."
Yeah, assuming any of them even wanted to have a conversation with you. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
After rejection, you started taking it personally.
Yeah.
And
I hate
took
these
that
people.
personally.
Yes. So eventually, you all get to the house. She invites you all in. Eventually, the Falcon does hop over to Mallory, and then takes turns. Or say it takes the time, sort of just exploring the inside of the house, hopping from like table to lamp to shelf to barrel, surveying the area, familiarizing itself with the place. Vair does much the same. He's taken up after doing that, he's taken up a position in the corner of the living room, if you could call it that, that would feasibly allow him to dash in any direction towards any potential entry point of danger, whether it's the windows or the door. Anybody walking in the front door will find Vair just looking at them. And then,
question.
No. Sure, go ahead.
How insulated is this house? It's better than nothing, but
It's mostly made of lumber logs that are stuck together using various like looks almost clay-like glue holding them together. It's a log cabin.
I see.
It has insulation, but it's not necessarily the greatest. But it seems to do. They've raised a family in that
Probably
house.
better than nothing. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely better than nothing.
Is
The,
this
uh,
little girl go capybara, coconut nugget pot just entering?
and Smite.
Yeah, it's just when she sees Holo coming in with his two capybaras, one of which is lying on the back of the other, she looks at them, thinks, goes, "Smaller puppy?"
Yes.
Obviously has never seen a capybara in her life, let alone a dragon.
Oh,
So yes, just tilts her head to the side and goes, "Smaller dog? They can come in too, I guess."
I've heard
eh,
people called coconut doggies.
Yes. And eventually people file in. Yes, the it's not exactly the most roomy house. It's got two primary rooms, and that being the general living area where food is prepared. There's no fireplace like with Granny A King. Rather, there is just a stove hob that also counts as a fire. It's got a hot top where food can be cooked on, or a flame that a pot can be suspended over. There's a bath sitting in the corner, unfilled at the moment. And then there's a second room off the side, no doors or anything. It's partitioned by a section of wall, where there are, there's 3 beds, a curtain of sort that can be drawn, and then on the opposite end of that room are 2 beds. And she says, "You guys can use the beds if you want. Got a couple chairs, and anybody that can't fit is gonna have to sleep on the floor. Sorry."
While this is happening, did they finish my little magical doodad?
I'll say at this point you have.
Alright. I would like to ask anyone and everyone in this house, who here thinks that it's too cold? I've made a solution that will help us get us through the night. I was expecting us to find a house, but so it wouldn't be useless here.
Me proceeds to set the house on fire to become warm.
No.
okay.
I'm gonna keep that boy on a leash.
Proceed. I like to roll to smack way. Hollow. Roll.
We'll keep that thoroughly out of character. Anyway,
Yeah.
so
Yes.
you all are now holed up in Mina's house. The Like when the curtain is drawn aside and you see where the family sleeps, that being two larger beds and a smaller bed in the middle. All the beds look neatly made. Very clearly, the bigger beds smell a bit mustier, like they haven't been changed in a bit. Nobody's been sleeping in them. Much like the guest beds, though those are considerably more musty, those apparently haven't seen company in a longer time. Mallory, during all this, you've gone about cleaning up the house some. You've dusted, you've sweeped, you've made sure the pickle barrels were sealed properly this time, as you can see that the barrel is filled with pickled vegetables of all sorts, whether it's onions, carrots, cabbages, not cucumbers, they wouldn't grow in this area. Sort of all sorts of root vegetables kept in there for long-term keeping. And the lid is actually sort of wedged in there. You have to pull it out first, and then you can lay it over the top properly. Very clearly kind of wedged in due to a lack of height and a bad angle. And the barrel itself seems fairly depleted. Whatever was in there, whether it was fully stocked or not, is now starting to run rather low. Further evidence that this girl has been living here for a while without any sort of people to help restock. So yeah, I'll say you guys come in here, you bring your bedrolls, your bed mats, get sorted, call beds as you wish. The girl will insist that maybe if he wants to, Vair can take her bed. Since nobody else here in the group is really her size. To which Vair then goes up to the bed, puts one paw on it, it creaks, and then he takes his paw off and shakes his head.
Mm-hmm.
Smart.
My
Thank
dog.
goodness, Vair. What a good deep dog.
Deep dog, yes.
Deep draw.
What a good what dog. Dog. He's a rare
Dog.
breed.
One of its
Oh
kind.
yeah. So, who is anyone cold? Essentially, is what I ask.
I'm fine.
Anyone has?
Look, we'll
anyone
kind of
has
rub his arms a little bit and say, I could use some. Well, I mean,
If go ahead.
this.
Flick, go again. What did you say?
Oh yeah, yeah. I could use a little bit of warmth, anything to stave off this biting cold.
Alright.
Even if I'm dressed in all my.
Alrighty. Any other takers?
That
Hol-
sounds like a no.
Actually, wait 1 second. No, Holo, just shivering in the corner with shit to the blankets all over him, and he's just holding a thumbs up.
Yes.
Yeah, no,
And
I don't
then-
need it.
I've got a
and then
warm coat.
She'll look towards Vair as well because she's considerate.
Works his head.
Towards Sakaria. Does your friend feel cold? I don't truly know how well you two can communicate.
Dragon, I mean dogs. We grew up in the mountains. We were
Mongol.
quite adapted to this.
The
Alright.
Mongol
The
dragon.
Mongol
Yeah,
dragons
to which
are dogs.
hissing in Draconic, Vair goes, "Don't speak for me."
Okay, whatever.
Yeah, Like,
What
you're
happened to the
you're
whole
turning down
thing?
you're turning down niceness when it's being offered to you, dipshit.
I-
Jesus.
It's just just Vair, seemingly particularly sassy today, is waddles up to Jaco and bumps his snout against her leg, to which he then hisses to Karia and says, "If I can stave off a little bit of this cold, I'd love it."
Holo will respond to Draconic to this whole conversation going on. It's like, and he's gonna say, "Same here."
See, he doesn't feel like
Vark
needing to be a tough guy.
So there's okay. So there's 1, 2. Let's see.
Vark, if there's any like small niche, like just be it under a table or in a corner between furniture, if there's any small niche where one can barely fit in, that's where you will find Vark
It's
tucked
faded.
in. Yeah, like all huddled together, knees up to his chest, his backpack kind of like slung around him. I'm actually
Nice.
quite good.
Oh, all right. Well, if that's the case. She'll turn to the young lass and go, "What about you? It's not much, but I can help make your night a little bit more cozier if you'll allow me."
That's very nice of you to offer, please.
All right. I pull out a wooden cross and would like to cast Endure Elements Communal Endure
Oh.
Elements.
Very nice.
Yeah.
That's
So,
actually good shit.
that's across 5 people.
Yes, I would have to cast it twice to
Mhm.
get everyone. With I can do up to 6 people for 8 and give 8 hours to everyone.
Mhm.
So 5 is
And 8 is
for,
what you need to cover a resting period.
Yes.
So, activating it twice, or in this case, activating it for those who asked for it, you're able to imbue people with a cloak of warmth around their bodies that feels toasty and comfortable, and keeps them at a comfortable. We call it not heat or warmth, but rather a comfortable sort of room temperature.
Not much, but tis the best I can do. And well,
Not much, but it's honest work.
The girl
Pretty much.
the girl for her part just sort of pats at herself. There's also it stops any overheating as well. To which she suddenly feels completely at room temperature. She pulls off her mitten and then sort of looks at it. Her hand goes from being sort of blanched and speckled to being a normal shade of skin tone. Sort of undoes some of her heavy the bundling she's done to herself, and just says, "That's amazing."
I'm glad you enjoy it, dear. It's not much, but it's the least I can do for letting us stay in your humble abode.
And so, I'll say you guys settled down for the night. You're now, those of you who need it are probably warmed through. Those of you who don't are settled in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what we're going to call the session.
Can I say how
Sounds good.
the Julian of all people played like a very wholesome?
We've touched on that, and I think I really like it. I think you do it very well.
I hate you all.
It's also a stress. Now, I relate to that because very often I've been the party voice of reason / party father / grandfather / grandmother, and I know how exhausting it can be.
Yeah.
You guys are giving me headaches.
And then I'm in kind of a similar boat, except I fall into the role of the party himbo sometimes.
Oh boy, the heart of the party. So yes, we will pick up tomorrow with the morning and once more leaving the town of what did I call it again? I called it Savanosk, yes.
Yeah.
Somebody decided to name it after that.
Before we leave, I have some of my own coffers. I'm going to, even though we left her 50, I'm still leaving her another 50 before we leave.
Oh boy, so you're just gonna hide that somewhere in the
Oh,
home?
so each of us gives 50 to stay here.
No.
No.
Only one of us should.
We
okay,
offered the child 50. Just Kari is probably soaking it in while the others start leaving, so that Vair can get pet. And
Okay.
I'm leaving an additional 50.
This child's probably the richest person in this town now.
Yes.
On that topic, why are we leaving money with a child who lives alone when someone else could just come in and take it from her?
Because no
Because
one
if
knows.
someone
Because
else
no
just
one
came
knows.
in and took it, no one knows.
Yes, no one knows that we put it here.
No one knows what it's like.
Jesus,
be
it's
bad.
freaky.
Be the Batman.
Be the Batman.
To be in
Sins in
Orphan.
the way. No.
So, that said,
Before.
we'll pick up tomorrow with the morning and the departure out of Savanosk. With that said, you guys spent a relatively quiet and unusual but comfortable night in Mina's home. I think maybe next session we'll pick up with if anybody wants to do some in between role play, talk to her, or if you don't and you just want to pass through the night and get the hell out of town, that's also fine. But we will do that. We will do that next week, Saturday, at the usual time, no longer disrupted by daylight savings time.
Alright.
God.
So, thank you, players, for coming. Thank you, viewers, for dropping by. Those who stayed, those who didn't. Thank you very much. And I'm going to go ahead and... Should we raid? I think we should raid. Let's just pass people along.
Oh,
Raid.
man,
Raid.
I am... You guys are giving me a headache, I swear.
We should raid Vault of Glass.
No.
Vault of the
No.
Glass.
Gala or kick.
Vault of Ass.
Vault
That's-
of Pain.
Vault of Terror.
Walter White.
Oh no.
Let it be known. I can't let it be known. I can't wait to get to my villain arc.
Right, Bobby Soros changed her username.
Yeah, me neither.
Oh, I think, let's see, we could either do Maokra.
I was actually looking at Mao as well. I think it'd be good to give her some love.
Yeah, we could do that, or we could do Amundal, who's playing Elden Ring. He's a nice dude. He's a lich guy. But also, Maokra is back from a very long hiatus, so I think... Yeah, let's raid Mao. Let's give Mao some love.
Yeah,
I'm sure
I'd
Suki
like
would
to give Mao
appreciate
a
it.
love. I agree.
So yeah, I'm gonna throw you guys that way. Sucks to suck.
I don't want to suck.
Fish. Right, there we go. Let's see if that works. There we go. It's initiating. Thank you guys for coming. I hope you guys enjoyed. Come visit us next time. And who knows, maybe next time around we'll have some encounters. I don't know. It's the road. At this point forward, once the party leaves Savanosk, as their train leader would tell them, when you guys start getting into the really nasty wilderness, and that's when the obstacles are going to start lining.
Alright.
We're going to be going to Mao. She is playing Hollow Knight. It even has a little specifically a PNG for herself, like the Hollow Knight.
Oh, cool.
Hey.
Yeah. Later.
Yeah.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
So long and farewell. Thank you very much for coming by.
Take care.
Take care of yourselves. It's a rough world out there, and we need each other.
Yeah.
And auf Wiedersehen.
Right.
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 Raid Shadow Legend. No.
I
Right.
would like it if I